Hello. Picture, if you will, a world that's upside down, backwards, inside out, and sideways. And in that world, we have the THC show. The THC show, Truth, Hope, and Change. We are entering what is apparently the 9th week of the apocalypse as it appears. And yes, the world is upside down, backwards, inside out, and sideways. And it always kind of was that way before this pandemic hit. But that was all because of drug prohibition. That's where the world was a logic-free zone. And, people could be arrested for medicating themselves with a natural, harmless herb. But here we are in a world where they're letting out prisoners to stop the spread, but they're putting citizens in prisons because citizens are too close together. And it is just insane. I mean, we have a public health crisis as a result of this pandemic, but because of the actions of governments, we now have an economic health crisis. And there's a lot of problems going on with that. The shutdown of our economy, of course, is costing us an awful lot economically, but also socially and with people's lives. It's put a lot of people's lives at risk. Their businesses are at risk. The way that they look after themselves is at risk. And so many people are living in fear as a result of this and all that results in. There's just a lack of common sense, that's all. I'm pleased, I guess, with our government here in BC for shutting down things the way that they did as quickly as they did. But I'm not so pleased that now that we're 9 weeks into that and we have smashed our curb down flat for a long time, that they haven't responded with allowing people to get their lives going a little bit within that. I think that they're not giving people enough credit at this point. They scared the shit out of everybody. And just about everybody, I think, is pretty concerned about common touch areas and getting the virus, from in the variety of ways that you can get that. So people are being careful. And I think that people need to be given a little more credit for looking after their own health. It is not the government's role to protect our health as much as it is the government's role to protect our rights and the economic security of our country. And I think that they're lagging on the last two. Of course, health is more important, and we should err on the side of caution and safety. But they're really putting all of this in the hands of Bonnie Henry here in BC. As much as I think she's probably a nice lady, I'm not sure a paranoid den mother is the one that should be deciding things to do with our economy. I think that her advice should be taken and heeded, but it should also be tempered with, what we need to do on the other side of things, which is not her expertise. And that we could perhaps save a bunch of lives with her measures and at the same time kill a bunch of people with her measures and that sort of thing as well. The incidence of domestic violence is now, many times more than it was before this. There's a lot of things that are happening, and really they need to be concerned about all areas. I mean, we live in a world where balance is important. This is a yin and yang universe, and we can't just be concerned about one side and let the other side go, because it's all connected, and everything is all connected. And whether you die from the coronavirus or whether you die from starvation, you're dead either way. So we need to have some reasonableness involved in this. And right now, I think there's still a lot of paranoia that's driving things, and a government that, has decided that they're going to take all these measures because they can then take credit for saving people. And they're not going to apologize, even though I think when we unpack this down the road, we're going to find out that there was decisions that were and weren't taken that should have been and should not have been. So we'll find out about all that. I'm just trying to hold the feet to the fire of those people that are in charge of all this, because we're living in very fragile and complicated times, and we're all at risk here in a lot of different ways. And I'm hoping that our public servants will recognize those other ways that we're at risk and start doing something about that as well. This whole thing is extremely divisive. The powers that be are certainly finding out who's on which side of what, which people are belligerent and will not comply, and which people are complicit. And what they're going to do about that down the road, I'm not sure. I mean, the whole area of protests is a big concern to me. We had a lot of protests going on around the world, and a lot of it was making some headway in helping to expose the corruption of things in different governments around the world and the way things are being run. And now all of that has been laid aside. And how we're going to get that back or get the momentum back that we had in those ways, I'm not sure. On the other side as well, there's a whole bunch of new legislation that's being passed. We got a lot of, every government official that's out there, bylaw officers, police officers, park rangers, all these different organizations now have the power to institute penalties towards people that aren't properly physically distancing. And that's dangerous, and I'm not sure that that's necessary. There's been a lot of mistakes made, and we're hearing about them every day. People being given huge fines for things they don't deserve huge fines for. And here again, we've got the divisiveness going on, where some people are like, well, they should just follow the rules blindly no matter what, because, everybody else has to, and people will die if they don't. And then on the other side, there's a bunch of people that are like, well, it's our right to do things these ways, and we should be trusted ourselves, and the government should not be in our lives the way that they are. And those people are being called terrorists. So now protesters are terrorists, and people that are against perhaps the vaccine and things like that. Well, I was accused of attempted murder because I wrote that I'm not in favor of mandatory vaccinations. I think that there's a lot to be suspect about with respect to vaccinations, and I don't want to downplay the value that they have when used properly, and how that they've saved people in the past from polio and different things. But that doesn't mean we write the government a blank check today, because there's all kinds of different possibilities with respect to viruses that aren't good. They're talking about chipping people and putting microscopic chips into the vaccinations that they give people. And I don't really know, whether that's the case or not. And I don't really know about a lot of this stuff. I mean, there's talk about vaccinations causing autism, and I don't really know. How can you know? I'm not a scientist. I'm not a doctor. Don't take my advice, because I don't really know. What I do know is that there has been a huge push for the last decade or so by governments and the medical profession to get people vaccinated. They want all the old people vaccinated for the common flu that comes through, and they want all your kids vaccinated with like 20 plus vaccinations that they've got to get, and a whole bunch of stuff. They really do want people to get vaccinated. They've been pushing hard for that for a long time, and I think they've been pushing a lot harder than is reasonable, which makes me think that there's something else going on here. I hear what they're saying about Bill Gates, and I don't know if all that's true or not, and how can we know? We can't really know. But I do know that I want to be able to err on the side of caution for my own life, and I want my own rights respected, and I don't like the idea of mandatory vaccinations. I've had people tell me that, if you don't vaccinate yourself, then you're putting other people at risk, and that's murder, and then now you're an attempted murderer. Well, I'm not attempting to murder anybody. What I'm attempting to do is just shine a light on things, to put some questions where questions need to be put. And I think that we need to question things. I think that that's the role of people, is to not just blindly accept what you're being told, especially after all we've learned about how corrupt our governments are and how indebted to the corporations our public servants are. And I don't think we should trust our public servants. I don't think we should ever trust our public servants. I think that we need to be vigilant constantly about making sure that they are making decisions that are best for us and not best for them and their corporate friends or their financial elite friends that want those decisions to protect their interests. So it's the role of citizens to hold the feet of the government to the fire and to question what they do and question everything. There's nothing wrong with questions. But I certainly do get taken to task if I ask any questions about why I think the government is really pushing hard to get people vaccinated and what that might be all about. I get people telling me that, because I'm questioning it, that other people won't get vaccinated and that's going to end up with people dying as a result of it. Well, that's certainly not my intent, and I think attempted murder requires some sort of intent. My intent is to have us all be smarter, be inquisitive about what's going on, to be skeptical about actions taken by governments, be skeptical about what we hear in the mainstream media, be skeptical about what the corporations are pushing for. I think that that's an important thing for us as human beings, to be skeptical. And I think that we not only have a right to be skeptical, but we should be skeptical, because we have been lied to by our governments and by corporations and the media for a long time in a lot of different ways. My big issue for the last 15 years has been the attempt to prohibit cannabis and other plant medicines. That is a logic-free zone that makes no sense, that completely infringes upon people's rights, that all of the different areas that the government says that they need to prohibit drugs because of, actually all of those areas become worse as a result of attempting to prohibit substances. We've known that for a long time. Prohibition doesn't work if what you're trying to do is curb drug abuse and that type of thing. So that, really the reason behind drug prohibition was never to protect people from dangerous plants. It was always to protect corporate interests with respect to other patentable commodities that they have that can be replaced by these plant medicines that anybody can grow for themselves. So we've known that for a long time. That's why I have a great disrespect for governments, a real healthy skepticism for governments and the medical profession as well. Science, I kind of like science, but there again, we have to be careful about the science when it's touted by governments, because governments can hire whichever scientists they want. They can give grants to those that they want. They can have information skewed any way that they want. And we've witnessed all of that with respect to the attempt to prohibit cannabis. And so that in this situation, I come into it skeptical, and I come into it wondering, whose interests are being played out here and what's going on. It's really hard to know. It is really, really hard to know. There is so much conflicting information. The dichotomies are everywhere. And so, be careful as you tread through this. Be careful what you believe. Be careful what you accept. There could be a lot more going on than what we're aware of here. Maybe this is all just what it says it is. It's just a virus that got out somehow, and governments are just responding to try to protect their citizens, and that's what this is all about. Well, maybe that's true, but even if that's true, I know that those governments and corporations that we can't trust are going to be figuring out how to use this situation to their advantage, and that's where we really need to be concerned. There's a bunch of legislation being passed that give governments a whole bunch more power than they had before, and we'll see what they do with those down the road. And it's going to be really hard to undo a lot of that. Governments don't like giving up power once they've got it. They'll just tell you, we just won't use it, or we're only going to use it in reasonable ways. But as we've all seen with the attempt to prohibit cannabis and other plant medicines, that they can't be trusted, and that really it's not about protecting the populace. It's about protecting the private interests of people that want to make money on us. So be very careful about what you believe out there. Let's all become very studious. Let's be smart. Let's use this opportunity to sharpen our wits, to increase our knowledge. We're going to have a lot more knowledge about viruses coming up. I don't know if I can put these back together or not here. Neil, got a little thing here. Sure, I'm going to multitask a little bit. Got some good donations there. So that's kind of what I wanted to say about that. I wish I didn't have to talk about viruses and these other types of policies. I wish that I could be just spending my time here on the show talking about that ridiculous government policy of over-regulating, prohibiting and restricting the use of natural plants for people that just want to feel better. That's what I thought this show was going to be about when I started putting it together 37 episodes ago, and most of our episodes were about all of that. But you can't ignore what's going on. There's certainly an overlap to everything. I mean, who would have ever guessed even a couple months ago that your government would tell you that weed is essential. You can buy it in government stores. We don't want you to come to work. We want you to stay home and watch Netflix and play video games, and you're good to go smoke as much weed as you want. That was never what we thought government was ever going to say, and yet here we are. Cannabis is an essential commodity. It's been deemed as such even in the States, where the federal government says it has no medical utility whatsoever, is a Schedule I drug that is requiring huge penalties for anybody involved with. And yet all the states have decided that cannabis, well, not all the states, but those states that have medical marijuana programs have all decided that that's essential, and it always was essential. So there's a lot of overlap what's going on here, but I can't just not talk about what's going on with the coronavirus. It's just foremost in everybody's mind. I don't want this show to be all about that. I kind of hate turning on the TV every time I try to watch the news or anything like that. It's all about the virus. So I think from here we'll talk about some other things. And on that note, there are a couple things in the news. Lebanon has now legalized cannabis. They are the first in the Arabic world to do that. But the growers are concerned about abuse and corruption with respect to the government taking over and allowing cannabis to be sold. And they have a right to be concerned if they have any knowledge of what happened here in Canada and the corruption that runs so deep with respect to our legalized cannabis here. They have great reason to be suspicious there. Lebanon has been known for many, many years to be a great source of hashish, and damn it should be legal there, and it should be free like it should be free everywhere. So good on them in Lebanon for doing that, and hopefully we won't end up with the corrupt system that we have here, and people will have access. And I know that the Lebanese people that are involved in wanting legalization think that it can really help their economy with respect to exports, and that's what they're looking for, is to export their cannabis around the world, and good on them for wanting to do that, and I hope that they're successful and that they don't end up with the type of corruption we got here. Another one is that in Kansas, they don't have a medical marijuana program. They have no leniency or tolerance for people that would be involved with cannabis, even though many of the states allow cannabis for even recreational purposes. And there's a fellow there in Kansas who is looking at 25 years of imprisonment for growing one cannabis plant, and he's a medical user. He's a cancer survivor, and he has epilepsy. And in fact, when they were raiding his home with a whole bunch of automatic weapons and all their flak gear and all the rest of it, he had a seizure right then and there. Yet they still went ahead and they're persecuting him. He's since moved to Colorado, where he's legal to grow cannabis and use it for his medical purposes and everything, but he's still facing a quarter century in jail back in Kansas. So we obviously have a long way to go yet. Here in Canada, we have these licensed producers that were poisoning people using chemicals they shouldn't be using, and there was a whole batch that went out from Organogram, and there became a class action lawsuit because they were using microblutanol, and well, we got the 419 alert, so roll them if you got them. We'll be doing the 420 session in just a second here. But yeah, so the court case is moving forward. There was a class action suit. A whole bunch of cannabis users were involved in that, but the courts did not hear any evidence of any health issues attributed to the poisoned batch of weed. So they've now reduced the scale of that class action suit down to just needing to cover the costs of reimbursement, which the company has already done. So that's a bit of a shame. I don't know why they weren't able to produce details of harm that happened to people, because I know there was some, but it didn't get entered into court. So that's what's going on there. And so now we'll move to the 420 session. And I just want to say that this session is dedicated to Bo Sears. Many of you know Bo. She's been a very vibrant part of our community for a very long time, and she passed away at 1 o'clock this afternoon. Fuck cancer. And my deepest sympathy go out to all of her family and friends. We're all going to miss her a lot. She had gone into hospital very ill with cancer, and she wasn't coming out. So there was nothing left for her to look forward to in her life, and I'm glad she's no longer in pain. But I'm very sad that we've lost such a wonderful member of our community. And Glenn Wells is here with me for the 420 session. How you doing, Glenn?
Good. Happy 420.
Happy 420. I see you got your mask on, and we're socially distanced, so that's good. There you go. Well, I don't know. Are you going to keep that on for the whole? Oh, okay.
I can't do that.
Yeah, no.
You can't smoke through it. But
I hate seeing people with masks.
I've gone shopping with it. I've gone to Timmy's with it. I've drove with it. So you get some looks and some laughs and stuff like that. But, you need that during this COVID.
It's funny as hell. I like seeing a mask like that because it's funny. And it really bothers me to see everybody in masks around our world here. Yeah. I hope that we can get over that at some point. So you knew Bo quite well.
Oh, yes. Oh, Bo, I was her drive home whenever she did mushrooms.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, but I used to visit her. My daughter Isabel gave her granddaughter her first bike that when she was too big for. We passed it on down to there, so we knew Bo very well, and her daughter Jada and stuff. So
she's an awesome soul.
Oh, she was. She was a very kind lady.
Yeah.
She lost John to cancer, and now she's with John and the other family that she has up there, and it's really a sad day. There's a lot of sad people.
And it's sad that we can't have a proper memorial for our friends.
There won't be no funeral because of COVID-19.
There'll probably be some FaceTime going on Facebook or something like that. Gosh, maybe they'll do a Zoom.
Yeah. It'll be up to Jada probably.
But
Jada said too, if you're going to send gifts or something like that, what was it there that? Here, let me look it up here. I can.
I'm going to light a joint.
You do that
in honor of Bo.
Yes, and make them extra big because this one's for Bo too. So
I've already got it rolled here.
She's saying, it's got a few people have been sending things. So if anybody wants to send anything for the family, for their mom, please inbox Jada Johnson, and she will gladly take your support. It's sad. It's just so sad. It was really hard to get to see her because you couldn't go into the Ridge Meadows Hospital where she was. You had to view her from outside the window, and when I got there, they thought I was some sort of guy creeping around.
It was your mask
in the bush. No, I didn't have my mask, but no, I tried to come before the show, and the nurses got all upset. I was actually talking to Jada. Jada had already called them, but I guess the nurse that saw me alerted them that there's some guy in the bush, and they come out and yelled at me. And I said, but I'm talking to them. I said, she's already called you. I guess you guys don't know it because you're out here, and she's on the phone with you, right? So then they had to move her like with a crane and everything. So by the time it was getting too late, I had to come to the show. So I just bowed out and said, I'd try to see her later, and unfortunately you can't. Yeah. So this one's dedicated for her for sure.
All those that pass give us good reason to live our lives as best we can in honor of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be sad at 420s in Canada Day when I'd go pick her up and she'd do some mushrooms, and I would drive her home to Maple Ridge and make sure she got home safe and stuff like that. It was always her safe ride, and if she was going to an event, she'd always say, Glenn, can I get a ride and stuff like that. So I was always there.
You don't realize how precious life is until
it's gone.
Until it's gone, right?
Yeah.
And hopefully, those around people that pass can get a glimpse of the importance of life and the importance of loving each other and just living life to the fullest, like you say, right?
And being in the cannabis industry and like in social media, we hear about a lot of people who are dying from cancer. And if they had cannabis earlier in their lives, they might have not had this cancer, right? Because I believe that cancer, the endocannabinoid system kills those cells that cause cancer or something like that. Is it?
Yeah,
There's certain cells that are in your body that they're supposed to do a certain purpose, and when they're finished, they're supposed to disintegrate, and they don't. And then when a bunch of those get together, it causes a cancer. So, and your endocannabinoid system reminds those cells to self-destruct.
That's true.
Yeah. What are you looking at?
Well, I wrote something, and I wasn't going to read it on air, but maybe I will anyway.
Well, go for it.
I don't like reading off a phone on a live show. What the hell? Where did it go?
It's okay when it's not a prepared speech or something, right?
That's true.
For a speech, you're supposed to remember.
Well, it is kind of what I would do in a speech, but...
Yes.
What's one of your memories of Bo?
With Bo? When I first met Bo, she had set up an oxygen thing at the pain management supply place.
Yeah.
I think that's where I met her first.
So
I'm
she
not
had an
100%
oxygen
sure.
bar?
She had an oxygen bar set up there.
Yeah.
And she was letting people have oxygen, and I just got to find her to be such a gentle human being.
Oh, she was.
Man.
You know that white winter jacket that I wear with the big pot leaves on it?
Yeah.
That she gave me that.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, so I'll always have a memory of her.
Nice.
That belonged to John, and he wasn't wearing it anymore. She said, "This is the most appropriate gift for you," and so I now wear that jacket. Right?
Nice.
And
It's nice to have something like that.
Yes, and it gets a lot of compliments. That jacket, it really does. So I will have a piece of her on my back every winter. You know,
I'm not very good at finding stuff on my phone, apparently.
and you can never find it when you want to.
Here it is. Here.
All
right. So we get one life, a collection of moments running in sequence with one goal: to feel good.
Yeah.
There are varying opportunities and there are many obstacles, but that's just the way it is for everyone. But we're all unique individuals with different environments, different genetic predispositions, differing moments, and different resources. The circumstances are different for us all, but it is the same job one for everybody: learn how to feel good. Mm-hmm. So with that in mind, here's what I've learned. And this is for Bo. This is why I'm, I wasn't going to read this on, but I feel like, life is far too serious to take too serious. All there really is how you feel in this moment right here. In tough times, keep your chin up, no matter what it could almost always be worse. This too will pass. Most problems and difficulties make you stronger and smarter.
Yeah.
It's better to give than to receive, because it's great to be in a position to be able to help people. If I do get control of my choices, I choose to direct my energy only to things that are fun or productive.
Yes.
I know there's only two types of things in life: those I can change and those I cannot.
Yeah.
Of the things I can change, there's only two types: those that are worth my effort and those that are not. Whenever possible, I assume the best, give the benefit of a doubt, and try to stay focused on positive things. Life is short, complicated, fragile, and amazing. Make the most of it. Do your best. Laugh at the rest.
Yeah.
Because laughter is the best medicine, and music's a close second. Freedom, hope, and tolerance are some of the most important things. It's best if I can imagine walking in the other person's shoes for a while. Mm-hmm. That's a very important skill. I try to always err on the side of compassion. I know that I'm lucky. I count my blessings daily, and I live with an attitude of gratitude. Love is always the answer. Mm-hmm. Unhealthy fear is the enemy to be feared the most.
Yes, it is.
So those are some of the things that I've learned over my life. There's a bunch more, but that was just kind of off the top of my head. And
we love both yours. Apparently, she wasn't doing the oxygen bar. She said somebody else named Joan Bethune was, or within Joan Balloon or something. Carly's saying that. Carly Thiessen.
Wow.
It's
I apologize.
It's
to both Bo and
it's an old memory, right?
It was an old memory.
It is an old memory. Yes.
I don't know why I got those two confused.
You got a headache today.
Yeah.
So
I haven't told the audience that, but I'm not 100% today.
Well, I just memory things, so I gotta come up with an excuse.
And I hate it when it's my own fault too.
Yeah.
I should know better, because discipline is kind of the thing that keeps things together. And sometimes I'm not as disciplined as I should be. I've been watching this.
But Neil, we're human, man. We recall memories that are sometimes mistakes, and we think it's a good memory, and it's not to be bad or anything. It's just we're human. That's the way it is.
I've been watching this thing about a guy who they suspect is not human. Turns out he probably was after all. Michael Jordan in The Last Dance. Ooh. So I was watching that. And turns out they don't have all the episodes released, so I can't binge watch till the end. So I had to wait for yesterday, actually came out Sunday, for the next installments.
Yeah.
So I watched that, and I'm really enjoying it, to get an inside look at Michael Jordan, his teammates, the Chicago Bulls, and all the drama that was surrounding all of that. Very interesting moment in sports history. So I'm really enjoying it. I watched the episodes that they released. And then last night, after taking Roxy home, I decided I'd start watching the whole thing all over again, because I got nothing better to do until they release the next episodes a week from now. So I stayed up until about 2:30 in the morning watching episode 1 again, and
Oh, wow.
and then I didn't feel very good, and then I didn't feel good this morning.
Oh,
man.
maybe you won't do that again?
I won't do that again.
You'll
promise.
wait till the next
I
show comes
promise.
out, right? You won't
Yeah,
start
well,
rewatching the
I just
show.
won't stay up late smoking weed, before a show, because these shows are important, I think, because we have information that people need, and that's what really drives me to do what I do. I've always been just a messenger, really.
Yeah.
I have the gift of the gab.
Oh, we are, yes.
We do
both.
And then when I was working in restoration, I was a carpenter guy, a restoration guy, working for insurance companies for many years, going into people's homes and getting to meet them, and usually after they'd had some sort of a little minor disaster in their lives. And I was, a little lay psychologist there. I've always been, intrigued by human psychology from a lay perspective. And so I did a fair bit of that with my customers about explaining that it could almost always be worse than this. This will protect you for the next time,
Somebody out there is having a worse time than
exactly,
us, right?
And I got all that going on. So that when I did that renovation in 2004 on what became the Herb School, and I spent that long weekend reading The Emperor Wears No Clothes and getting that information, it's been a burning desire of mine ever since, all these years ever since, is to get that information out, because people need to know this, because it changed my whole understanding about things. I always knew that weed shouldn't be illegal, but I didn't know why it was illegal, and I didn't understand the corruption.
Yeah, I didn't learn for a little while too. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I knew that I wasn't a criminal.
Yeah.
And I had a sense that, they were calling us criminals. I didn't like that very much.
And drug addicts.
Because, I know a criminal is somebody who purposely hurts somebody in significant ways, and I didn't like that label at all.
No.
But I didn't really understand the history behind how it became a crime, or who did that, or why. And so that long weekend, it really opened my eyes, It
was some company, right?
Well, I mean, it was a bunch of companies that had products that cannabis could compete with unfairly, because they couldn't grow it as cheaply or whatever, and it wasn't as effective or whatever. But so they kind of conspired. I mean, mostly it was the Rockefellers.
Yes, that's
because the Rockefellers had the monopoly on fossil fuels, and cannabis is a great source of fuel.
I know.
10 times more efficient than corn.
Yeah.
There's nothing like it. It grows so fast and so much biomass and so usable for fuel. And then the Rockefellers took a lot of their earnings from selling people inflated prices for fossil fuels, and became leaders in modern medicine and pharmaceutical medicine. So that they had both of those fronts going on, and they just demonized the hell out of cannabis and herbal medicine and all of that.
I know, I've got one of those posters, the Devil's Lettuce or Devil's Harvest and stuff like that.
Yeah, the Devil's Lettuce.
I see we got I brought in some edibles there for CSP from Dank Desserts there.
Dank Desserts, thank you so much. That's Jason out in the Fraser Valley there.
Yeah.
Gave us these things. There's a box of them here,
there's a whole
as you can
bunch
see.
of stuff for the CSP, and those are high dose. Those are 200 milligrams.
Yeah, we're probably going to break these into 4s, so they're 50 milligrams each.
Yeah,
and then it'll go a little farther as well.
And just in time, because your other edible guy got in a bit of a kerfuffle or something.
No, the big problem we have with the CSP is we are really desperately in need of trim, flour, shake, something that we can glean cannabinoids off of, so that our bakers can bake stuff. I don't have what I need right now to give our other gummy person what they need to make gummies with. And I'm a little behind on that as well.
Okay.
Since the CSU came and shut down a couple of our main suppliers of that, we've been really hurting. It's been a real scramble.
Now people know, if you're in Canada and you want to reach out and help Neil and the people of the downtown east side, get a hold of Neil.
Help us help
get a hold
people.
Of me, I can help out too. I've been collecting stuff for you in the Fraser Valley, so
I know, and that's what this is coming from.
And it's better than you driving all the way from Vancouver. I'm already halfway out there, so.
I've been out and about every day trying to get what we need, and having a real hard time of it. So if you know anybody that's got trim, shake, herb that they would like to help people with, please let us know. You can contact me through Facebook is probably the best way. Cannabis Substitution Project group page on Facebook as well. And I'll cover some more of that when we do our CSP update. We're going a little longer, you and me today, Glenn.
All right.
We're cutting into Jerry's time.
Oh no!
But Jerry gets
over there. He's got a baseball bat. He's waiting.
No, Jerry gets to go a little longer too. I I didn't actually announce who's coming on the show today. I mean, 8 out of 10 Glenn is here right now. CannaMatch.ca is his thing. Go check that out. But Jodie Emery is going to join us about 5 o'clock today. We'll probably do a little shorter interview than normal. She's been doing a really good job of obeying the orders to stay indoors.
Amazing baking too. I've been seeing these.
Yeah, she's becoming quite a cook.
I know.
I want some of that.
Those peanut butter cookies that she posted from a midnight cook or a midnight munchies or something, they look really good. So
yeah, they do.
Yeah, and some of the meals she's been doing. So
yeah, she's been home, staying home like most people have,
Yeah.
which is probably the smart thing to do.
Yeah.
And I've talked her into coming into the studios for a little bit today to find out what's close to her heart.
Nobody can resist you.
Oh yes, they can.
I know.
Oh yes,
you don't
they
have to
can.
tell them that, don't you?
I've asked lots of people to come on the show in the last 8 weeks, and I don't know if they're afraid of me, but people just want to, they want this to be over.
Yes.
They want to do their part, and
Yes.
I don't blame them a bit.
And Dr. Bonnie said that she's she's a hockey fan, and she's good at letting the Rogers Arena be one of the hub places. So she said there'll be no audience, but already the hockey players are wearing face masks, so that's going to help get it going and stuff. So we may just get a few games yet. So we'll see what the NHL
There are
says.
some motivated people.
Yeah, there's Edmonton that wants to be a hub city. Vancouver wants to be a hub city. So that means that they'll play a bunch of teams in the same arena over the same. They could be like 3 or 4 games in a day, apparently.
And they'll test everybody daily.
Yes.
Although if you listen to
I think
Dr. Bonnie Henry talk about the testing, 30% inaccuracy with false negatives and things like that.
30%. I thought it was only 0.3%.
She said. No.
30%
0.3 was the one in Ontario who refuted what Dr. Bonnie had just said, and then Dr. Bonnie reiterated that they figured 30% of the negatives were false.
Wow. Eh?
I don't know what I think of any of that stuff.
Yeah, I
don't know. I just don't know.
At the beginning, she told us when the curves flatten, it will be okay. Now it's flattened. Well, let's not have any social distancing and keep that going so that everybody will be healthy forever.
Glenn, if the government tells you go ahead and hug strangers, you going to do that right away? I'm not
going into a restaurant that's got a...
I like hugging people.
Yes.
Mostly my friends.
Yeah, I will hug people.
But, I think everybody's going to be a little more careful.
Yes.
Almost unfortunately, we need germs.
Before COVID, we were asking people if they wanted to hug, so it's going to be a continuation of that.
Some people like hugs, some people don't.
Yes.
There was already fist pumping and elbow stuff was going on before this.
I will respect whatever you wish, but if you ask me for a hug and I'll give you a hug, there's no problem. I'll shake your hand, whatever, right? That's what we've been doing for centuries.
I don't think it's healthy
to
not have personal contact with people. No. I think that we need other people's germs to a degree.
Yeah.
Small amounts of foreign germs to what our bodies are used to helps build our immune system. Yeah. I don't think it's good to stay in isolation. I mean, you want your kids to go out and play in the dirt and get exposed to these things.
A little bit of dirt.
And, nature gave us a pretty damn good immune system. And if you're healthy and you're laughing regularly and eating right and sleeping properly, I mean, you should be good for most things.
And when we talk about the immune system and using it, it always reminds me of the Orson Welles or H.G. Wells story on the radio about the War of the Worlds.
Oh, yeah.
And then the aliens died because they caught a virus from Earth.
There's
right?
Because
they didn't have an immune system that would fight it off, right? So with our immune systems always being tested and fighting off each one, and we don't get it again, that would be something like he had.
Anytime we arrive on a planet that's got life going on there, we're in danger, big time danger of the microscopic lives that are there that we're not able to fend off. Like absolutely no other living thing from some other planet could come here and immerse themselves in our atmosphere and our germs and survive. Not a chance.
No, unless they've been here before. I don't know.
You want to really get out there now,
Look at that footage that they just released. 3 aircraft footage from the U.S. of unidentified aerial objects, they call it now, or something like that. They've changed the UFO to something else.
Anything's possible.
Yeah,
that's what I've come to understand.
Well, I don't think it would be. I don't think it would be out of the world to think that there's other people out there. There's the universe is so big.
Lots of possibilities.
Yes, tons of it.
Our governments or some private entrepreneurs could be so far ahead of us in their technologies. I mean, they could have had flying ships going on 50 years ago or 60 years ago. I mean, maybe that's what people are seeing. I have no idea. Maybe there's other dimensions and maybe you can travel through them and maybe you could appear. I have no idea.
It's all in the twilight zone.
Who knows? But, the more that I spend my time looking at all these different things, the less I'm sure about just about any of it, quantum physics and all.
What makes me think that is, like, if you look at a picture of the Milky Way, it's all white. And in the middle of the Milky Way is this blue little dot, which is us. And if you were to be...
We're not in the middle. We're kind of off the side. If we were in the middle, we'd be sucked into our black hole.
And there's a little bit of blue there, right? So if you were somebody who was flying around on a ship, oh, look at that. Where would you go? To all that white? Or would you go to that blue? Because it's
If
blue,
they're flying
right?
around with the capabilities of visiting these places that are so far apart from each other, then they probably figure out how to find out what's going on these planets, long ways. We are finding out all kinds of things about planets that are so far away from us that we can still tell because of the way they reflect the light and the different substances that they're made out of. The science is amazing.
It is.
And yet the science is still in its infancy and doesn't really know a lot. And that's what they'll tell you. I watch Anton Petrov every night, astrophysicist guy on YouTube there. He's got a new video every day that he puts out. And almost all the time you'll hear him add into what he's talking about the fact, well, these are just theories. We don't really know.
We don't really know exactly.
Yeah. Or this has come along and now all of a sudden everything's upside down and nothing makes sense anymore. It's just... They're thinking that there's different laws of physics in different areas of even our own universe and different things. And things that are constants here are not so constant other places. And those constants are important for, like, it could be that life can't exist in any other, places in this universe because of some of these constants that are, I don't know. But watch Anton Petrov and maybe you can understand.
Okay. And what was I going to say? I forget now.
All right. Well, all right. Good timing on forgetting what you were going to say.
Yes, there we go.
CannaMatch.ca still going well.
Still going good. Yeah,
you have some offer there for people still. Is that going on?
It's still on. And if you want to meet somebody while you're stuck at home, come on.
So what's the offer?
I've been giving away 10,000 credits to all the ladies who sign up.
Wow, and that gives them lots of opportunity to talk to people.
Stuff like that. So
cool.
Guys,
CannaMatch.ca.
Yeah, and all the women until the end of the month will do. How's that?
Very cool.
10,000 credits. It only costs you 5 credits to send a message, so you can send a lot of messages.
Yeah, you'll definitely find your mate within 10,000 credits.
Having robots on there,
sure.
So we'll give the ladies credits and the guys can talk to them.
Very cool. Right? Thanks for doing that, by the way.
No problem.
You're going to look back on that in the decades to come and think about what a service that was and all these people that found some love.
Yeah. I want to get a commercial out there so people will know about it, right? And once I get some money, hopefully this year, that's what I'm going to do.
Maybe we'll be playing your commercial on the show.
Big time, yeah.
Good stuff. Thanks, Glenn. I very much appreciate you coming in.
We'll see you next week.
See you next week. Which brings us to the Martin Medical Moment. The Martin Medical Moment is all about the fight for medical access in Canada. It's about Mr. Jerry Martin, which is why it's the Martin Medical Moment, because Jerry is really a poster boy for dispensary owners who've been put out of business and persecuted by the laws in Canada. We've had medical cannabis access for a long, long time, since Terry Parker Jr. won his right in court. And it evolved from there with numerous other court victories to the point where there was people opening up medical dispensaries all across Canada, especially here in Vancouver. We had a couple hundred dispensaries at one point. And Jerry Martin was one of those people that was responding to the needs of his community, helping people get access to cannabis for medical purposes, and opened a dispensary about 7+ years ago now. And he ran that dispensary for over 4 years with strict protocols as dictated by Health Canada with respect to doctors giving a confirmation of diagnosis and those types of things. As he ran his dispensary, things evolved in Canada. There became many other dispensaries. The city of Vancouver decided to license their illegal dispensaries here. And all that was going on while Trudeau was running from a position not even of any standing in Parliament, and took his party from that position to a majority government on a platform of legalizing cannabis. He said during the run-up that that would solve the issues that medical cannabis patients had with getting access, and that was not the truth. In fact, he lied to us about a lot of his plans for legalization. He tried to eliminate all of the current people involved in the industry. None of them got to be included in the new program. All of them continue to be criminals under the new legalization scheme, and the medical cannabis patients are the ones that are really left out in the dark. This has been a real horrible nightmare for them, as legalization, as they call it, has closed up most of the medical dispensaries right across Canada. Jerry felt that he would be, allowed into the mainstream of cannabis dispensing when things all became legal, and instead of that, he got a letter from Health Canada telling him to cease and desist, which of course is an impossibility for somebody, especially in a small town who's been supplying cannabis to people that need it for 4 years. You can't stop helping those people. I mean, where are your loyalties? Are they with the people in your small town that are without your services going to be left, sick, suffering, and dying? Or is it with a corrupt government that's telling you to shut down so that they can come in and take it over? Jerry had no choice. And so Health Canada sent the RCMP in to arrest him and seize his properties and things like that. And now that's been going on for over 3 years and over 40 court appearances. It is just such a horrible, horrible ordeal that they have put this gentleman through, who has done nothing to harm anybody, and in fact put all of his efforts into helping the people get access to medical cannabis and to use the proceeds to help his community out and to help the activism out, to the point where he became known as the King of Compassion for just how much he was contributing to people. So it's a real, real tragedy that our governments have decided to use our tax dollars to persecute this person and many other medical dispensary owners, staff, and clients out there in Canada. And we use this segment to highlight that and the ongoing journey to get proper, reasonable access to medical cannabis, now on hold because of the whole pandemic. So Jerry's here with me in studio as always. I want to thank him for coming in. And how you doing, Jerry?
I'm doing good. How you doing, Neil?
I'm doing okay. I've felt better. I'm that far into my only joint of the show, and I don't even know if I want to light that at this point. I wish cannabis made me feel better when my head hurts, but it doesn't.
You take one of those capsules.
I didn't do that.
Well, there you go.
You gave me capsules. They're sitting on the dash in my car. And why didn't I think to take that? Because when my head starts to hurt, my brain slows down, and I don't think of what I should do.
There you go.
Yeah, I should have done that. But so you mushrooms helps with that, and you got something else going on that you've been involved with for a little while here. Tell us about that.
Oh, psychedelics? Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's getting out of control now.
Is it? The demand? The interest in demand? Or
it's like busy, but it's also starting to raise red flags with CRA.
Well, just keep all that in order.
Much, yeah.
Keep all that in order for them.
Yeah, we're working on that.
Yeah.
Accounts and things like that, but you
gotta be aware of the government. They don't like people helping people.
Yeah, that's for sure. So
seems like it.
Yeah, hopefully we can keep this going for a while.
If they like people helping people, then they'd be helping us at the CSP, and they'd be helping you get people access in white.
Yeah, getting a lot of really good reviews. So it's definitely helping people.
Yeah, and it's not hurting anybody.
No.
So
no. I had one call, one email the other week.
Okay.
It took about a quarter tab.
Which is more than what you recommend to start?
Yes, which is clearly over the recommended dose, but which is not a lot over. But I had to call. I called immediately and dealt with the sister. The sister called for the other sister because she was too embarrassed to call me.
So what do they have to say?
She was getting little hot flashes, and I thought she maybe took too much, but I just let her know it's all good.
Yeah,
it's all good.
Time,
time heals all.
Time solves those issues.
She said, she was telling her about donor. I said, you can tell her whatever you want. Tell her for psychological help. But time is...
And I wonder where she will be, in the weeks and months to come.
Yeah.
Because there's residual effects of this, right? I mean, this is what the whole idea is.
Yeah, you're creating new brain pathways and new connections and new ways to think. And
once
you do that enough times, it start getting better. I'm getting way better. Yeah.
Well, that's good.
I'm still having my days. I'm still trying to hang on to that old feeling. I'm listening to Ram Dass right now.
I see.
And you don't want to let go.
Do you study the Stoics?
I'm sorry?
Do you study the Stoics at all?
No, not yet. No.
Check that out. There's a lot of good information from the old Greek philosophers with respect to Stoicism. which is basically understanding that there's what goes on in the world, and then there's your interpretation of that. And that you can control your interpretation of that. And there doesn't need to be a bunch of negative emotion attached to a bunch of different things. And so how you do that, how you discipline your mind, how you look at positive things.
I'm thinking righteousness is my problem.
Righteousness?
I'm learning about righteousness right now. The more you're right, the more other people are wrong.
And the more you want those other people to be right, right?
Well, it's not just about whether you're right or you're wrong. Whether you're right or you're right. It's about... it's about the emotions that come with being right and the different things that happen with that. So you just gotta let
So ego is very much involved.
It's about ego. Yeah, it's not about right or wrong. Yeah. So I'm learning about that.
And it's how you impose your right on other people and those sorts of things.
Yeah,
too, right?
yeah.
That's
Same with relationships and things like that. Very important relationships.
I like to say judging is for the gods. You know, that they get to do that at the end of the day. I don't want to judge anybody really too much. You know, I mean, I make my opinions on, things, but whether or not people are right or wrong about their approach, I am not really usually in a position to say, because I found out so many times that there's information I don't have, and that many times that information meant that people were a lot more right about what they thought they were than I thought they were.
Right.
I try to understand that the more I know, the less I know, and then that... there's always lots of sides to most issues, and that's what I said early on when I talked about walking a while in other people's shoes. That it's an important thing to be able to think about, why do they believe that? How did they come to believe that? What information do they have that I don't have? All those sorts of things.
Well, we're all programmed into our suit.
Yes. Preconceived or predestined.
Yeah, so your parents already know who they are. They got their suit they wear.
Yep.
And so they want you to have a nice suit.
That's it.
So they program you with their information to have a nice suit. And then you're always uncomfortable in that suit because you got your own thoughts, your own emotions, and your own
it's your natural instinct to rebel, basically.
Yeah, to find out who you are, right?
I think it's an important thing that nature does there.
Right.
Is not allow the children to be completely indoctrinated without question of what the parents have to say. There's always, kids are typically rebellious unless they have it like beaten out of them early.
That didn't work.
That can happen. It didn't work with me either.
Yeah.
As much as my dad, I love my dad. He's passed now. Rest in peace, Dad. I hated him when I was growing up because he was so tough on me and tried so hard, to institute his beliefs into me. Spanked every day whether I needed it or not. But I appreciate where he was coming from now. I realize what his intentions were.
Yeah.
And
it was a big thing back then. Religion and
spare the rod, spoil the child.
Yeah. Bible is the way.
And faith, right? Don't question stuff too much. Just gotta have faith.
Faith is great. Just what you're having faith in is.
there's a time and a place for it, but I like curiosity better than faith. And I have an analytical brain. I like things to make sense to me. I don't like things that don't make sense and be told, well, you just got to have faith that's the way it is.
Right. Well, I'd go with faith a lot, especially with creating new businesses and things like that. You just got to believe it works.
Right, faith in yourself and faith in what you believe in and all that. Yeah. That's an important thing. Confidence, and I mean, nothing would get done if you didn't have some faith in taking a step forward. Right? So faith is important. Don't get me wrong. I mean,
have you heard anything about Sarah's trial? Or?
I haven't. I just assume everything is on hold. Heidi and Sarah and all these other people that have things, pending at this point. If there's stuff going on that you want listeners to know about, please let me know, and we'll put it on the show here and pass it on. But I've checked.
I was expected first week in April there, and then they messaged Sean a couple of weeks ago, and they still hadn't heard nothing. So
I don't think there's anything going on. I think they just have to throw all those things out, don't they? They have to give you all your stuff back and say they're sorry and give it.
My new charges are coming. Hopefully not, but
hopefully not. I mean, I hope that your new prosecutor will take some time and watch the show and listen to what we have to say here and think about what it is that he's doing and who he's doing it on behalf of and what he's trying to accomplish. Maybe he already knows. Maybe prosecutors know that their job is to protect the financial interests of the licensed government producers.
And hopefully he smokes some weed.
That's
there's better odds.
Been my hope.
Well, there's better odds now that they're admitting to smoking weed.
Exactly.
Because it's legal, right?
Exactly.
Well, somewhat.
That's always been my hope, is that they'll stop using alcohol as their tool for figuring shit out, and they'll start using weed to figure shit out.
I'm hoping that judge smokes a big fat J right before every...
He should. Or at least, have some bubble hash.
Yeah, something, yeah.
He's a judge, he's probably going to have something. The vape pens. Yeah. And they always did smoke weed. And I say that, without knowing everybody's situation, but I know enough of them that those people in those positions of power typically were smoking weed and breaking those laws and other things because they had that ability. It was part of the gig. It was part of like making them understand that they're in that position where they can do it and other people can't. It's a horrible thing, but I find that in so many instances where those people put in charge of persecuting others for something are doing it themselves. And it comes out time and time and time again. I think of Dog the Bounty Hunter.
What happened with Dog?
Oh man, I don't like the dog very much. I never did. He runs around busting people for one thing, right?
Yeah.
But he's a fucking cokehead. And he's a
That's what's wrong with
he's
him.
a self-admitted cokehead. I went to see him in Saskatchewan when we were on the Freedom Tour there. He had an auditorium rented out to the big one. Yeah. And he had all those people up there. He got up there and started telling people to turn in their kids if they found him smoking weed, because the cops will help your kids out, Fuck that. And yet there he was. You could see he was jonesing. He had dry mouth. He needed water so bad. His bloodshot eyes and big red nose. And then later on he admits that he's into rehab, for his coke habit. And fuck that. I mean, this guy running around busting people for large dollars
and
for the
encouraging
same
other
thing
people
that
to
he's
turn
doing.
in families. And
It's just one example, but
I don't like him anymore now either.
I got mad at him in Saskatchewan, I'll tell you. I mean, we walked out. We made a big scene of it. I was yelling at him on the way out. I said, I just turned him into the cops because they know how to handle his troubled kids. That'll really help your kids out. Stupid advice he gave people. And then, and we could tell looking at him, I've been around long enough that you can tell by looking at some people, what some of their habits are. And it was pretty evident, just there. And then he confirmed it later on in some interviews he was doing about, how he had to go into rehab, for his coke habit.
Wow,
Piece of shit, piece of shit. So many of these cops are pieces of shit, I'm sorry to say that.
I'm not.
They don't start out that way.
Yeah.
Actually,
I am. It's too bad. Back in the day when we were kids, it wasn't so. They weren't too bad, man. They weren't all. They used to steal our booze. You know what I mean, or whatever. But nowadays, you're going to jail for absolutely everything. There's no interpersonal connection anymore. You know what I mean?
Not all cops are bad. I've met some good ones, or at least I've seen them in their good moments.
Even back drinking and driving back in the day, which I do not say is, good at all. But they used to treat us like people, is what I'm getting at, right? And they, if they felt we deserved a warning, we got a warning. But nobody's a person anymore. You're a number, man.
You're a number, and not only that, they decide pretty quickly on whether you're a good guy or a bad guy, and then they treat you accordingly. Yeah. And, I always thought that they should try to treat you as if they were your uncle. Yeah. You just got pulled over by your uncle. Yeah, you were doing something that deserved you to get pulled over. He's going to tell you about it. He's going to make sure you understand it. Yeah. But he's not going to ruin your life over it,
that's it.
It's a sad thing. Yeah. And I wanted to respect cops. My dad wanted to be a cop. I grew up in that sort of a household,
I thought about
Christian
being a
household. Cop. And I wanted to respect cops, but of course, that turned out not to be able to be the case. And I still think it'd be really, really nice if we could. But anyway, that's a whole other story. We're getting close to 5. I don't know if I have my guest.
Popped in, had to run out.
Popped in, had to run out. All right.
Sorry, I'm in no hurry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cops have a very, very fragile place in my opinion of where that they are, and they really, just like if you're a big guy, if you're a great big guy, you have a responsibility to yourself and to your community to not use your size and intimidation to bully people and to be an asshole, right? And cops, they got guns, they're intimidating just to begin with. They should be nice all the time, right? They should use the limited amount of what they need to force, and force isn't as hard as what they make it out to be.
I'm in 7-Eleven doing my mail yesterday, and I just got this feeling, so I look over to my left, and Sure enough, there's an officer there.
Yeah.
His uniform was like hanging off him. He's so small.
I see.
But he give me a look and gives me the nod, and I give him the nod. Yeah, I guess the guy. And then the guy pulled over again. Was it last night?
A couple nights ago, I think.
A couple nights ago, yeah. And I just sitting there having my coffee, and I seen him go by, and then they come around, the lights come on. There's some calm as could be,
Why?
They said that the car hadn't been insured for a few years. But then he says, but sometimes the computers go down. And I'm thinking, well, if the computers are down, how do you know it's not insured for the last couple of years? All right. But yeah, he was fairly polite. He wasn't bad. He was just, but yeah, you know what I mean? I give him the insurance, and he says, I believe it's your car. And usually you've got the one okay guy, and then you got the real prick.
Yeah, always. Yeah, good cop, bad cop.
It seems to be, and I don't know why.
And they've got sensors in their car now, right?
Job, or not even a better job with just the polite guy, than having the prick trying to cause friction and cause a problem, so that they can get you for something. Yeah. And then there's me, and of course I don't put up with that whatsoever. Right? You know what I mean?
Yeah, good cop, bad cop for sure.
Yeah,
and they've got sensors in their cars, right? I mean, as they're driving through traffic, their computer will flag if there's a license plate that they come across. Yeah, they got a bunch of bylaws.
So they knew I was okay. They just wanted to come over and check out the guy with the tattoos and the nice car, and But they didn't bring up any of my conditions or my warrants this time, or like not warrants. I don't have any warrants, but my bail conditions or anything like that. So.
I've had good success the last couple of years every time I got pulled over, and there's probably close to 10 times I've been pulled over in the last couple of years, but I haven't had them seize any of my weed or really give me a hard time at all. They've been really good. So
that sounds like Jodie there.
Okay. She's there.
I'm a minute late. I'm so sorry.
Stay there for a second. We want to give Jodie proper distancing and everything. We're trying to do that with everybody. So I guess that's it. Microdelics.
Yeah, microdelics.ca.
Cool.
Yeah.
Check that out if you're having any issues with depression, anxiety, addictions, any of those types of things. Microdosing psychedelics is a really good way to deal with that for most people.
Definitely. So just gives you that little bit of separation.
Cool. Thanks, Jerry. Very much appreciate it. We look forward to next week. Good to see Jerry's doing better. It's been a real struggle for him, and we're trying to follow that journey of struggling with our justice system with Jerry and to see where that leads. It's been quite a battle for a long time to get our rights with respect to accessing cannabis, especially for medical purposes. And it's really a shame. I mean, people are supposed to be free here. They give lots of lip service to freedom, but in reality, you're free to obey. And the rules really don't make a lot of sense when it comes to cannabis and other plant medicines. We've been fighting this fight for a very long time. It's been decades of fight. We almost had it won in the 70s, and then the soccer moms came along and said, oh, what about the children? Well, then we managed to explain that, prohibition hurts kids, and cannabis isn't to be feared, but prohibition is, and lying to kids is not a good idea. And this fight has just been ongoing. We got a whole bunch of momentum since that time again. We've been fighting hard here in Vancouver, and Vancouver has kind of been the hub of activism activity, around Canada, but also around the world. And we've led the fight here from cannabis culture. It's been one of the icons of fighting this fight. And of course, cannabis culture started by Mark Emery and carried on by Jodie Emery. And I am really thrilled that Jodie has taken some time out of isolation to come and visit us here today and tell us what's going on. And without any further ado, you don't even really need much of an introduction other than that, Jodie. Everybody knows who you are and is excited to hear what's going on with you. Jodie Emery, welcome to the THC show.
I know. Thank you for having me, Neil. Of course, I'm glad to be here. I do pop in once in a while because it's, in order to keep your immune system up, you have to be exposed to germs and other people. Like
exactly.
If you're in a fully 100% sanitized bubble, the first little germ you meet is going to floor you. So like when Mark was in prison and he got the superbug, the MRSA, the antibiotic resistant infection, it was like that's because of overuse of antibiotics. It's like too much sterilization, too much, wiping the landscape of all bacteria and things isn't actually good for health. So I still come out, I still stop by the store. Actually, I brought in today some peanut butter cookies and some blueberry banana bread coconut oatmeal muffins because I am having... And they're not infused. It's just straight munchy madness.
They're infused with love and goodness and smiles.
Well, it's like I'm smoking weed and getting high while I do it. So
I'm seeing these things you're posting. I'm like, wow.
I'm having lots of fun with it. I'm really enjoying actually taking time and getting to food. And like instead of spending a fortune with food delivery every night after long, busy days all the time, you just get home exhausted and then you end up like doing the easy thing, the click of the button and get food. But then the restaurant doesn't really make as much money and there's all sorts of issues with that. So getting my hands on food and like really making it, it's quite something else, but it requires, expanding some of your kitchen tools and stuff. Like you start to realize.
So Jodie's cookbook is coming up.
I could make one.
I
could make like a little. I've really wanted actually to do a blog. So I'm gonna try and retrain myself how to do websites. I used to do websites and stuff all the time, video editing, photo editing, and I think I could just make my Jodie Emery website into like a Jodie's Joint combo, like a blog where I talk about products I like that are made of hemp or related to cannabis or other issues, and instead of just tweeting what I think or like posting on Facebook and social media, to actually create a go-to point where I can share thoughts and things and ideas. And these recipes I'm not inventing. I take other people's recipes, but I might tweak them or do something a bit different. So that's been lots of fun, and it's great.
And you could infuse anything.
Yeah, you definitely can. And so I'm actually I've never used cannabis in food, and I've never really had an interest in it, but that could be a fun show, is like where I actually...
Do you eat edibles?
No, I like smoking joints. I don't... Last
Me too.
edible I remember is like high school even. I'm sure I've had something like while I've been around in this. I'm sure
I'm shocked at that actually, just because there's so much around you all the time.
I know, but I just, I'm not...
People must give you edibles lots of times.
They try to, and I feel bad. Well, I take them and I give them to someone who will enjoy and appreciate it. Or I just let people know I like smoking joints. I used to. So
did you have a bad experience with edibles?
The last time I really remember doing it, it was like high school. I drank a lot of beer. I had a very short phase of it was a 1 year period of
you went from goody two shoes to...
quite
and anybody who wants to know that stuff, you can go back and look in the archives. The THC show episode 2 was all about Jodie's history and all that kind of stuff, and lots of really cool information in there.
Yeah, and that's the stuff I kind of want to put into, speaking of the blog, I still really want to do a book. I am dying.
I think you got 3 or 4 books in you.
I do. I actually have 2 different books they're going to be working on.
And then there's the cooking books, and now 3, and then there's going to be one on photography of nature coming up for.
Poetry and
there
different
you go,
creative stuff. I have a lot I want to say and express and do, and I've been I've been trying to get out in nature, and music comes to me. I used to play piano and sing when I was young too, and all these songs are coming to me, and I just start singing, and they rhyme, and they're a message, and it's I'm trying to actually record it. Once in a while, I'll be I should just record this, and nobody ever has to hear it, ever, unless I want to make it into something I want to share. But I'm trying to get beyond.
You could have an album to go with the books.
There's a lot of things I want to do, a lot of things I want to share.
You have not quite finished blossoming into that wonderful flower that you're going to be down the road, right?
There's a whole different part of me that never got to live because it's been such... my identity has been tied entirely to my activism. That's all it's been. That's all I've known. That's all I've done.
Well, you've been so focused.
And it's been necessary, and it still is necessary. But I think this crisis has actually helped a lot of people. I listen to a lot of podcasts too, especially with famous people or public figures who deal with, being forced to slow down, and it's good for us. I think there's a lot of good out of it, but yeah, very strange times because you try and act like things are normal as much as you can, and then you remember that the world is really in a weird place, but then you come back to this building and everything's fine. And I mean, we have protocols in place here. I mean, there's rules and distancing and 2 people in the store at a time, and
I don't have the same studio audience I used to have here.
Right. We can't, and I want to be smart and do that and do the right thing, but again, we can't entirely cut ourselves off because that will have its own negative blowback. So
It's a yin and yang universe. We need the balance.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah,
there's a
it's
lot of that
risk.
that's missing right now in a lot of people's lives.
Oh, for sure. And I am mostly an introverted person, so in many ways, it's like I can sit there and do nothing for a long time. And there's some funny memories coming up because when I go to the grocery store now, you have to wait in line, and sometimes it can be half an hour just to get into the grocery store. And part of me is like the first split second, I'm like, oh, well, this sucks. And then I go, but I remember going to visit Mark in prison, and where you can't even bring a phone or a magazine or anything into the prison, and you wait half an hour to get in, and you wait half an hour to get your name on the list, and you wait another hour or two to get picked, to get pat down, to wait another hour to get into the room, to wait another half hour for your visit.
Right.
And
Lots
there's
of
like,
waiting.
and there's nothing to read, and you're
You
sitting
didn't even
in
mention the plane trip down there.
Exactly,
where you're
waiting
just
for
sitting on a
all
plane.
that.
Yeah.
And it's like, and so I'm like, I can wait. I've sat and waited for hours in a concrete blocked room with no windows.
Well, and here in
And so
Vancouver, we went
that's-
through Expo 86.
I was like
I-
1 year old then, yeah.
Well, Expo 86 was huge.
Oh,
lineups.
massive.
Oh my God.
Like a
You'd
legendary
stand for
event.
hours to get into a pavilion. I went every day. And that's what I said during that time. Well, this is really going to get us used to standing in lineups,
Yeah.
and it did. And I hadn't actually thought of that as in comparison to what's going on now. I don't like the lineups. There's other stores, like there's a Save On, I won't say where, that almost nobody seems to know about, and there's never a lineup to get in
Yeah,
there.
and it depends
You know?
on places for sure.
Yeah.
I've noticed a big difference in like different neighborhood traffic, and like it's
Yep.
so busy down in this area too. The London Drugs and Nesters have lineups literally out the door down the
Yeah.
block. It's like, yeah, so there's a lot of really messed up stuff
Nothing
going
of
on.
one-way aisles in the stores. I hate that too.
Yeah, there's
that,
all
that
sorts.
bothers the heck
And
out of me.
then I find myself like, when people get really too close to me, and then I'm all like, ah, but then I'm like, nah, I don't say anything or do anything. I just try and get away.
Well, when you come around out
know.
the end of the aisle and there's somebody else coming around and both of you kind of go,
And
oh.
you don't want to like offend anyone or get in their space. So this is all really weird. And again, I am an introvert. I'm used to, like, I don't have a social life. I never went out and did anything. I didn't go to parties or concerts or events or stuff.
see.
Like, I'm alone a lot. And so I can handle that part of this. The thing that concerns me the most is that there are many people out there who can't, who are very social. And I know that, like human beings, we're social creatures. We need to be interconnected. And some of us loners, we have just enough connection. We're like the offshoots on the edge of the forest or whatever. But the rest of the forest needs to stay strong. Like that social core, the hive mind, the whatever it is. Like we need that connection.
I like to say
still.
have as much fun as you can. I've been saying that for years. These days it's all stay safe.
Yeah.
But for me, it's stay safe, stay sane, have as much fun as you can.
Yeah.
Stay sane is important because, like you say, there's a number of people that don't deal well with what's going on here, and we're all being taught to be afraid of each other now, and to be afraid of all the different things you touch out there. And
Absolutely.
I don't like fear. I don't like to live in fear. I think a healthy fear is a good thing. I mean, you shouldn't walk off a cliff or jump out a window. But unhealthy fear is to be feared.
And there's a
Boy,
lot
there's
of that right now, and
Lot of
it's unreasonable. People get on edge, and that's causing all sorts of other health problems. So, and
lots
it
of people
also,
isolated in homes where there's abuse going on.
oh yeah, and there are so many drawbacks to this. And then of course there's the immediate physical ones, like having to wait in line, and like there were shortages. There was like one cauliflower left, and I was like, oh no, I got the last cauliflower. And you go, is there going to be food shortages? Should I stock up on sugar and chocolate and the things that I can't
Meat
grow?
now we're talking about, right?
and
I hate
so
to even
you
say
have
it on the show
yeah.
because now everybody's going to go buy meat and it won't
Yeah,
be
but
from me again.
there's a lot of concern
a
about
lot.
that, and that directs your life like immediate impact, like foreseeable future. But I can't even start. Like I try my best to ignore it, but the bigger picture, how crises like this are used, no matter what the cause is or how much is true or not. They're used by people in power who seek more power.
increase their power.
And it's like lots of things aren't going to be reported in the news. There's just a lot of
Uncertainty.
and the idea of surveillance, and even I saw on Twitter today, they said something like, would you, having like immunity passports in order to move around? I'm like, hell no for me.
The
I
whole
don't know.
vaccine thing, I mean, they're talking about it's already starting to mutate. There's some cases in New York now that
that's
are
the
looking like
thing.
it's quite mutated. So they're going to come up with a vaccine that won't last through the next season.
Exactly.
And they're going to vaccinate all of us all the time, and I don't like that idea.
Can't be, it can't be like this. And so I think
I can't extrapolate. I'm good at extrapolating, where the future is going to be based on, where things are going. And I really can't extrapolate much of anything right now because we don't know. I mean, if this reemerges again, next November, That'll put an end to concerts and,
Right.
and
Well,
sporting events
so many
and
social
political rallies and protests for
lounges,
You know?
events like 420, just restaurant
I know.
experiences. The idea, that's what I'm going to miss a lot, is sitting in a jam-packed place like Jam Cafe up the street. They make
So
brunches
one of my
all the
questions
time.
that I wrote down for you was about Cannabis Day. How are you feeling?
It's, what day is it even? What month
It's
is it? I don't even know.
It's almost 2
Oh
months
my
from now.
gosh. Wow.
And Bonnie Henry came out yesterday and was asked, when she thought all of these things would be lifted. And she
Mm-hmm.
said, well, looking like probably July 1st. That's what she said
Well,
yesterday.
that's-
So I'm like, hey, all right.
Yeah.
And I think that we can do it. I mean, unless there was some huge outbreak in all of our society here between now and then, which doesn't look like that's going to happen.
Right. And
But without that, if it continues the way it is, then by July 1st, we can have an event there. Whether we have a stage and stuff, I'm not sure.
yeah, well, a lot of people
But I'm going to
will-
be there with a booth, and I think that it's a big park. There's lots of room for people to spread out. We can put up some signs about respect other people's space as best as possible. But if it stays the same as it is now, there is no reason why we can't have a cannabis day. So that's
Well,
where my fingers are crossed for.
It's an interesting idea. I have recently started going. I've rented a car. I don't own a car, but I find that it helps a lot for getting around, getting like big.
From lineup to lineup?
Well, and they say like don't shop every other day at the grocery store. Like I don't want to wait like 4 hours in full each week just to get into grocery stores. It's
Get
like
a
one
couple of
visit.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to like
Make a
conserve.
list.
And so I've rented a car, and they gave me a great deal because everybody's going out of business, and like I've had a relationship with this company for a long time, so they gave me a good deal, and parking is free right now,
Yep.
and gas is like $0. So I'm like, this is the time to get a vehicle to get me out into nature. So I went for a 4-hour hike yesterday, which was
Nice.
epic and awesome, and I get it for groceries and this and that, but shit, of course I'm a stoner and I forgot where I was going with this. Cannabis Day, farmers markets. I went to the farmers market the last couple Saturdays, and they have, they
Trout
have.
Lake?
The Trout Lake was that one I went to last time, and then the time before that was Riley Park. And so what they do is they have like, it's kind of, there's a lineup to get in.
Yeah.
And then you can browse while you're in there, and there's mini lineups of different booths, but there's enough room and space. I mean, quite frankly, if I was like the health dictator police, I would have been able to crack down and be like, you don't have 6 meters. It's like you pass
2
within
meters.
someone, whatever. So yeah, right? That's why I'm
meters is
not.
next month.
That's why I'm not the health dictator, because I don't even know how to measure. But the point is, like, it gets a little crowded, but not really, because what they do is at the entrance they have volunteers with walkie-talkies. And at the exit, they have volunteers with walkie-talkies. So they literally count as people come in. They control the flow. And yeah, you might wait 20 minutes in the lineup to get in, which I did. But I was able to do a phone call thing I needed to do. And, just learning to balance time. And so Cannabis Day could take on a form maybe like a farmer's market. Naturally,
Which
that's
they have
what
at
it
Thornton
is.
Park on Wednesdays, and I think
Right,
they're coming
and
back
it's
now.
like that's what it is. It's
Yeah.
like it's a Cannabis Day is like a farmer's market,
It is,
and
yeah.
so and a celebration and a protest. So like maybe the stage and all that might not be possible, but it's like you don't even really need that because it's just kind of an opportunity for people to come through and get whatever they need along with information. And
I would like a stage, though.
of course, it's always
Yeah.
better to have a
I
stage.
think it's better.
That requires a budget. Budgets are hard to come by, especially right now. So, but if it's possible, then I don't know.
We're going to talk about it. We got just under 2 months to talk about it.
It's so
and,
weird how we didn't have 420. Time
no
is
global marijuana
time
markets.
is really twisted up right now, and I've been like reading articles about it, and it's like it feels like it's gone by really fast, but also very slow. And there's these two things about it, and one of them is because if you don't have significant milestones like weekends or like you're done work, you get your 2 days off. Like those are checkpoints you have to get to, and that's how you measure time. That's how we all measure time. We need like seasons and sunrise, sunset. We need markers to measure the passing of time. And right now, there's not really much of it, and that's why I said, "What day is it?" It's
Yeah.
actually my dad's birthday, so I'm gonna call him after this tonight.
Oh,
but
nice.
but yeah, so and it's Cinco de Mayo and
Cinco de Mayo.
Taco Tuesday on the
Yeah.
same day apparently. And yesterday was May the 4th be with you, and of
That's
course
right.
I'm a.
And we started the
original-
show today with the Twilight Zone theme.
Ooh, I watched a bit of that when I was young. I loved stuff like Unsolved Mysteries.
Well, this is kind of like the Twilight Zone. It's like, wow.
It is surreal. And then, of course, it's like, again, we all have different experiences. So in my own way, I'm like, well, I go to the grocery store. There's food. There is food. They have measured people, traffic flow. They have But then you read stories online and people are still looking for toilet paper. And I'm like, well, toilet paper appears to have come back for now.
I don't think it's a problem right now.
And that's the thing, for now. Because now I'm seeing stories about, like factories where stuff gets made. They aren't really, all of it.
Pork,
all
apparently
factory farm.
3 weeks and the pork supply is going to be affected
all
by
mass-produced meats and stuff. So this is interesting because it also is kind of forcing us to a more local, decentralized food system.
I also think
which
people's
is
freezers
good.
are full right now.
Yeah,
There shouldn't be a big run on most things because I think people already bought a whole bunch of things and stocked up as best they could a couple months ago.
The idea, toilet paper is such a big item that when it's gone, it leaves a big empty space. So that's why it was visually like, oh my God, there's none left, so need to get it.
Yeah.
So, but when you think about it, it's pretty much like what have our ancestors survived on before they had giant supermarkets. No, I'm not going back that far. But I mean, growing food and vegetables, fruit and vegetables, which can
I've been posting a lot of that.
And I'm growing stuff on my balcony. Lettuce goes nuts. They get big, and then the aphids come in. There's all sorts of problems. I'm learning a lot, but the point is,
indoor gardens are going to become the thing because once the season's over, you still need food.
Exactly.
So people can produce tomatoes and lettuce and all kinds of
all
things
the herbs
indoors
and stuff, and it's so easy. It's so easy to do. So back to our ancestors. What did? They grew food in the ground. And what else can you do? You can have chickens and make some eggs and get some cows and animals, make cheese and stuff. And what else can you make? Probably bread. So if you're going to the fundamentals, it's like grains and breads, veggies and fruits, and some dairy, a little bit of meat, a little bit of chicken and egg and milk. And cheese, of course, cheese.
If this brings us back to some of those skills and things, that's going to be so positive.
There's nothing is all good or all bad, and I've been in some pretty dark places the last couple of years, but I don't know, something seems better about this. That it's.
I've always said anything powerful has both good and bad.
Yeah, and it's what we make of it, right? And of course, that's how it is always. And again, regional. I mean, some people in America right now might be watching, and they actually are in a crisis. Our neighbors to the south, and with respect to the food system and everything, there's a lot of fucked up stuff. So I feel really badly for everybody suffering and all the uncertainty and all the stress. But then I keep thinking what good comes of this? Crisis and hardship is what makes people shine. It's what makes people strong. I as a visual example, I grew some pea shoots, and they start out like this big, and now they're jumbo, they're giant, and they go all over.
I love peas, and you can't really buy them in the store fresh hardly ever.
Yeah, so they're probably going to be delicious. But the thing is, I'm watching these vines, and they have little tiny vines that are thinner than a thread. And they wrap around and they tie around, and the wind is blowing, and I was like, oh, this poor plant is just being thrashed about, and it's being literally held together by threads, but that's what makes it strong. And that's why the plant is strong, because it's being fucking beat up, and that's why we're strong, because we've been beat up so much. So it's all this hardship, and I don't know, the hippie side of me is Mother Nature. I said this before on here, I think, but it's Mother Nature is sending us all to our room. She tried repeatedly to warn us with fires and everything natural and all the problems and the bee crisis and everything. Mother Nature's saying, you guys need to stop with your factory farms and your oil and your war and your
pollution,
all the inhumanity.
The ozone layer is coming back.
So all the inhumanity in the world is kind of stopped for a minute. Even all the there's numbers about hospitals they're not that busy actually.
Not here, they're not.
And it's because there's no car crashes and drunk fights at the bar and people and all this shit.
Injuries and things like that too.
Yeah, and so there's a lot of
Although the downside of that is there's a lot of people that need surgeries and things, and there's empty hospital beds,
and they can't get to it. And even dentists, I have and some people if you have really important dental work or something that needs attention, but it's not essential, and you can't there's a lot of things I'm kicking myself for not getting done or doing before this all happened, but things got to go back to some kind of normal because people will just revolt. So the government is going to have to offer an avenue for reasonable, and they're doing it in other provinces and other places, and we have to.
My beef with our government here is that they're not as good at getting things going and looking out for our financial health.
Oh, financially we're fucked, by the way, with all the subsidies and all. Well, in the U.S., I heard what was it they're trillions of dollars in debt. It's you're never. Who's paying back that bill for trillions of dollars? Nobody ever. You're all gonna. It's gonna
you
sink.
could grow enough weed.
Well, No, but I just think
we could be the saving of our planet economically.
I agree with that in many ways, but I'm talking about bigger picture infrastructure, like government just printing their own money. It will devalue money, and then you have a crash, and there's all sorts of like economics. I'm not an economist by any means,
we're going back
but
to
there's a
Soylent
lot
Green
of
prices by the looks of it.
fuck. Things are getting expensive and stuff too. So
But my son said that to me yesterday. He says, "Are you getting ready to eat Soylent Green, Dad?"
Oh man!
And I'm like, "No, it was never a thing for me that I was going to eat Soylent Green." But it was always a thing for me that we might end up paying the prices that you pay for the stuff that's not the Soylent stuff.
Well,
If you go look at that movie, I mean, the price of a steak or strawberry jam or stuff like that was like through the roof.
Well, that's why again you got like people learning how to make their own food and grow their own food, and I think that this crisis is smashing big stuff like big cannabis, big agriculture, big oil, big war. I mean. a lot of the wars are tied to oil, like and pharmaceuticals are made with oil products. Which was it you or somebody shared that, and I had no idea. So much of the oil industry, pharmaceutical, is petropharmaceutical. Like 80% of.
I don't think it was me that told you that. But
No, it's cheese, man. I did not know that, and it was like I wrote, no wonder. Like this makes so much sense.
Who had their huge, fossil fuel monopoly.
I kind of thought like pills were in their own.
And then the plastics and all that made from the fossil
the oil it makes the pills. Like I didn't realize that pharmaceuticals are often made with petro stuff. I just thought it was a whole nother industry on its own. But anyway, all these big things, the centralized systems are kind of collapsing. And that might be a good thing. It's a bad thing in a lot of ways. But it might be a good thing in that it forces people to return to decentralized local communities, 100-mile diets, all that stuff. And, cannabis has so much to teach us because I've often said with the whole cannabis industry, before legalization never came around, like let's go back 10 years, let's say, 8 to 10 years ago, the cannabis industry was decentralized. Like you might have had some brands, like in some dispensaries, but nothing was the big guy. Like there wasn't a brand that was available all across Canada or whatever. So cannabis was always decentralized, small producers, small batch, artisan, local, and you could say like maybe a big factory farm of a grow-op might be considered big, but that's still only hundreds of plants compared to thousands. Not factory farmed, factory farm weed, right? Just big local weed. Like the farmers markets I go to, I'm sure they have giant farms. Like they're not little patio gardens. They produce enough food to feed a farmer's market and then some. So naturally that's a big farm, not a factory farm. So the idea of like factory farming is bad for everything. And cannabis was like the one outlier in commodities that hadn't yet been sucked into the stock market, government manipulation, lobbying, all the bullshit. Cannabis stood on its own as a decentralized, independent. You can't destroy this system because you take out one, the rest are all on their own still. It's like a mycelium or a mushroom. I don't know. So cannabis always represented that. And the government and big corporations have been trying to destroy small farmers markets and small cannabis and small things forever. Small business. Yep. They've been trying to destroy that forever. And cannabis may be this crisis in nature and some, again, hippie side of me talking, put on my hippie hat here. But like maybe it's nature kind of being like, oh really, you wanted to try and bring us into the fold of your broken system? Well, a cannabis plant ain't having none of that. Yeah. We're going to smash it and we're going to destroy this petropharmaceutical military industrial complex that's obviously causing so much misery and suffering worldwide, and we're going to force people to go back to looking after themselves and their immediate local environment, because the only way to fix, a big problem is to start with little pieces. And so I don't know. I think there's some good that can come from this.
They tried to bury us, but they forgot we were seeds.
Right.
And seeds are so important. We've talked about, growing your own foods and stuff like that. Yeah. Seeds are flipping amazing. And I'm really hoping there's a whole lot of people that have got some cannabis plants coming up now. Yeah. I mean, we still need to overgrow the government big time. Don't stick to 4 plants. That's ridiculous. And don't
throw out your seedy weed. Because I'll tell you, I got a batch of buds one time from a friend, legally handed to me, because that's legal to have 30 grams handed to you, and it had seeds in it, and it's kind of annoying, but at the same time, those seeds pop. Yeah. Allegedly, so
plant those seeds, right? And see what you get.
And it's just like sharing is fun. Like just making baked food and bringing it in is fun. Like I got a lot of lettuce and stuff. I can't eat it all, but the aphids, fucking aphids. I mean, that's the weird thing. I don't like killing anything, but I'm like, you guys, I don't want you to kill my plant though. So I got one of you's gonna die, and it's gonna be the aphid or the lettuce, and I'm using Dr. Bronner's citrus hemp soap. You just make a soap spray. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't work. You got to get them early, let's just say, but it dehydrates bugs, and that's why also this flu, the best advice from our chief medical lady in Canada, what's her Tam, Teresa Tam.
Teresa Tam. Yeah.
Is that her?
Dr.
Yeah,
Tam.
she said today, just remember, today is international hand washing day.
Oh.
So it's like it's always been a hand washing day because hand washing is essential and all worldwide.
One day a year you should wash your hands.
Yeah, it's the day. This is it.
That's the day.
The day.
All the other days
right? And then it makes it really enjoyable to get it all off on this day. No, but for real, it's a reminder that soap is magic. Like soap just kills things. It dries them out. It just rips apart little things. So use it all the time. I use it myself, and Dr. Bronner's is the soap I also use. I just love it. So it's got hemp in it. Yeah.
You're learning.
There's a lot of things to do. I'm really having fun making the most of a lot of this time. I mean, there are some difficult parts, obviously, but
what I really wanted to ask you about was what's still close to your heart. I mean, you've always had a real place in your heart for families that are torn apart by imprisoned, family members for the drug war and things like that.
Oh,
There's
absolutely.
still a lot of that going on. There's still a lot of other sides of the fight for
Oh,
cannabis
absolutely. There's
access.
so many big picture battles still that we have to address, and what still gets me upset is injustice, and I'm trying to avoid going on Twitter and stuff as much because when I read news stories of giant corporations that I know have done so much harm, canopy growth, when I read any stories of them having success or giving their money to own parts of I know it's not a bad thing for small businesses to seek out funding to survive and grow and do good things. That's business. I'm still really torn up inside about the way they destroyed a massive industry in a community. Look, I'm even getting emotional.
And you're thinking about cannabis culture here.
I'm thinking about all of it. It's like there were thousands even of dispensaries across Canada with good product doing good things. And canopy growth, tweed, they lobbied for it. They lobbied Bill Blair. This is in the news. I have the 8 articles I always share. They lobbied hard and said, shut down all those people, bring in tougher laws, make them all criminals, get rid of them so that we can open our own businesses and take it over ourselves. And there's force and coercion. There's unfairness in that. There's just brute force. There's greed. It's like, that really bugs me.
Don and Carol.
I think about everybody. I think about when
I go visit Don and Carol now, they're so sad.
It's just traumatic.
They had all this industry going on, and then it's all been taken away.
And it's
all
community.
Their employees, that's what really hurts them the
Friendship,
most. Is they had all
community.
these employees that are now unemployed and hurting because of that.
All the
they
customers,
were helping,
all the people.
all of that.
The spirit of us. It's like they took the body and they butchered the body and they made sure they somehow grabbed the spirit and strangled it too.
Yeah. Well, these are the people we've been fighting against for years, right?
And
they came up with legalization to satisfy us because we were right that legalization was just and should happen. And they decided to use that to continue to get their original goal, which was to wipe us all out and to continue to make all the money that's there.
And the fact that they used the pretense of legalization because it's wrong to criminalize because we've admitted prohibition is a failure, so we're changing the laws and moving away from what we did before, and to use that as their slick little messaging to put their companies in a position through government lobbying to Bill Blair and everyone directly. And it's not just a liberal problem. Like my twitter.com/Jodie Emery has 50 plus names of cops and politicians who are getting rich on these companies. It is rotten. And that's what, for me, the reason was an activist from the get-go is because injustice makes me sick. Yeah. Human rights violations make me sick. That stuff, and even I can't believe how emotional I'm getting over this, and obviously I've been ignoring it and burying it for a little while because it upsets me.
And that's what I asked about.
And that's why it triggers me. And so when I go on Twitter and I see people like, celebrating that they got their store open finally, and they had to mortgage their house and sell their soul and grovel and go through shit and suffer, and it's like, but 5 years ago you had a thriving business and no struggles and did no harm to anybody. And now you had to go and you have to fucking take Canopy Growth's money that they robbed from investors, that they stole from taxpayers through subsidies. Like, that's one of my books. And I hope this doesn't get me, silenced in any way, but, one of my books is going to be documenting the way this unfolded. And I can't keep complaining about it and saying, when I see celebrities like Wu-Tang or someone, they said, oh, thank goodness for Hexo Growth or Hexo CEO gave money to Ottawa Food Bank. And so we're going to give money too. And yeah, Hexo. And I was like, the first thought that came to my mind wasn't good on you for donating to the food bank. It was, God, Wu-Tang, you should know that Hexo is a rotten corporation that's got a bunch of off-seas money from different... there's so much... And that their workers were dehydrating and collapsing in the grow facilities, and that the occupational health and safety people had to force Hexo to put water cooling stations in because the employees were being hurt. I've got all this shit written down, man. I've got all this stuff, and they're so rotten. And then to see their praises being sung, but I can't be that little whiny bitch who goes around on the internet saying, don't you know how bad they are? Don't you know what they did?
Well,
it's
I was told the other day that there's no point in doing what I'm doing because, everybody's just okay with legalization and there's really nobody's going to get too excited about, where it's wrong. And I'm like, well, that's my job. My job is to explain to people why this is not okay,
right? Why,
medical patients are sick and suffering because of this. And people need to be concerned. Sure, as a consumer of cannabis, you can have cannabis on you. You're not going to get arrested. You don't have to prove where it came from because you can grow 4 plants and you can get it gifted to you. So for people just smoking weed, it's a better world. Yeah. But for people that need it for medical reasons, for people that have been supplying this marketplace for decades,
for people,
they're all still criminals.
People who have been outcasts of society, who found acceptance from a community, and to be told that they are criminals and that they don't deserve their jobs and that they need to be fired and they need to be evicted from their houses. There's a lot of shit that's still going on. And again, to see these big companies ride the message of legalization and turn into something where we're still criminalized, worse criminalizing, so many horrible and then on top so much injustice, and it's just too much. And so
that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to get it so that people don't care about the issue anymore. You can go buy it at a government store, you're all good, it's legal. And they're just trying to do that. But the truth is that, all these people that have been feeding their families and paying their rent by supplying the cannabis market for all these years are still criminals. They're still living in fear and all of their stuff is at risk. And the medical patients that finally were getting a little bit of access through the storefronts that were in the different communities across Canada, all of a sudden now they're shut out again. Exactly. And so many people are suffering because of that.
Back to
I get to meet these people, but the average person really doesn't, I don't think, unless it's their mom or aunt or somebody that's having these issues. But we all need to still fight for these people and to stop the criminalization of people growing herbs. And
like you said, it's hard when people who smoke, the majority of those who were affected by the laws before, don't feel so affected anymore. Mm-hmm. And they, I see on Twitter, that's what bothers me. I see people sharing reviews of weed and singing the praises of it, and yet the bottle says this is addictive and you shouldn't use it, and it's that's one of my issues right now, is that I get really upset still about all of that. Not that I care about it.
Are you together a draft for this book? Are you writing your
not yet? It's a lot in my mind. I wrote
take it out of your mind and put it on a paper as often as you can.
Actually, what happened is people may have heard me complain on Pot TV before. I had that chapter of a university textbook I was invited to write, and it's a closing textbook on cannabis in Canada, and it has all sorts of professionals, and I had the closing word about the development of the industry, and it was torturous to write because I haven't had to write long form in a long time, and so it took a long time to get 16 pages. That's a lot when you are used to tweet type. When you're used to just soundbite, snappy little short, say all the things in one long sentence on national news, say it all in one little, blah, 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 blah. But to turn that into now you need to make it a chapter, stretch it out. And that was really hard. And it took me a year and a half. It was painful. I kept getting delays. Like, I think every publisher gives like way earlier deadlines because maybe everyone else does the same thing. They keep asking.
So it's really good to have that.
It's great.
done,
And so
right?
I have that done. So that's basically like that's like the shortened version of what the book needs to be.
That's that first step.
Right,
And
and
once
that
you take the
helps.
first step, then momentum will carry you.
Yeah, and I want to get to that, and I want to write that book. And Jeremiah and I, and like, we have a lot of information we can put together into this. We've been collecting it and working on it, but that'll take some time. But a big part of me, I really want to write my own personal story. I want to.
You keep a journal, I would imagine.
I don't.
You don't?
I don't.
People that live powerful lives
They
have
ought
to keep
to.
journals.
And Libby
Yeah, you
Davies,
have
when
to.
I sat down with Libby Davies, wonderful. She told me it was after her book was out, and she said her biggest regret was not keeping notes because you think you remember it, you don't. I'll tell you, I have forgotten more than I will ever remember again. Because there are so many things like Facebook. Thank goodness for Facebook memories. It'll tell me stuff that I'm like, holy shit, I did that. Whoa, I forgot. And so. You're right. It's a shame I don't, but I do have
You do
something.
now, right? You're gonna start journaling now.
I'd like
Just
to,
a little bit
and I
every
have
day.
been, and I've been actually thinking about that more because you're right. Like I need to record stuff. Thankfully, in my case, a lot of my history is factually documented in newspapers. Like I literally have, like this whole set, like boxes upon boxes of
Your
stuff.
last decade and a half is
So
pretty
yeah,
well
so I can
documented.
sit down and like go, oh, here's the story. Like here's the date that thing happened. It's in the news. Personal stuff. I did my Jodie's Joint, or not Jodie's Joint. It was called the Jodie Emery Show. I did that for a few years, and it was like once a week. I would sit down, explain what I did, where I went. I would talk about Mark in prison, and so a lot of the emotional tidbits are in those videos. And if I watch them,
It won't be too hard to
right.
put that all
And
back
then like
together.
Mark, when he was in prison, there was an email system. So every night I would write him a massive email of everything I did that day, everything that was going on, and it was like massive. And so I
There's
have.
your journal.
I have boxes of those printed out.
Awesome.
And like all this history of all his emails. So there's a lot of, but that would require literally taking a year sabbatical, sitting down, starting to open all these things, organize the archives. Like it's really intimidating, but I think I need to get that out and close that chapter. Like
And
it's
a
been
personal assistant could help you with that.
maybe, yeah, and it would be good to get it out there because there's a lot in there I want to share with people. There's a lot I've been through, a lot of things that other people have been through, a lot of. I feel like I need to get that out, and then I can become me. I don't know. That sounds crazy, but. Again, a lot of my identity is tied into, I came to Vancouver at like 19 and fell in love with Mark at that age, got married at 21. He was extradited a
you
year
well from that
later,
time.
right? And that's just a fucking
You
kid.
haven't changed a bit, by the way.
Nice. I pulled out the grays today. Literally. But I'm 35 now, like I'm an adult. But Mark got extradited and it was prison and it was interviews and it was running for office and holding up election signs, and it was always for a cause and a mission, and at the end of the night I'm exhausted and then wake up and do it all over again. And I did that for years, and it wasn't until I got arrested in 2017 that I was forced to be on bail and to sit for a bit. That was a traumatic year of recovery and all sorts of stuff. But yeah, so it's like I'm looking back and going, oh, who am I? Like cannabis, I am not cannabis culture. I am not pot TV. I am not even Jodie's Joint. I am a person who, and I tell people this is a great time to do this. If they're feeling like they don't have joy in their life, or they're depressed and they need something, and you can't be looking for a person if you're lonely and to find the person to make you happy. You can't be looking for, but think like when you were younger, if you were fortunate enough to have a non-super traumatic, horrible childhood, but when you were younger, what did you like to do? When you had free time and you're able to run around and you're able to do whatever you wanted to do, when the parents were making dinner or whatever, or when you were with your babysitter.
When it was up to you.
It's up to you. What were you doing when
Yeah.
the world was infinite and time meant nothing and you did what brought you joy? Well, for me, it was dressing up in costumes that my mom made. She made clothing and costumes all the time. Singing and dancing, singing every song out of all the Disney movies. I loved to sing. Playing music and piano, writing songs, writing poetry, writing short stories. Fuck, I wrote so many things and so many little ditties and You know, one of them was like, if the sky were any bluer, we'd mistake it for the sea. And when the boats went out to fish, they'd fall on top of me. If the sea were any lighter, we'd mistake it for the sky. And all the all the birds and bumblebees would drown instead of fly. And
Nice.
you know, like, I remember vividly walking on a field just making shit up. And I was always very creative. And so I did art of all kinds. Art, singing, dancing, music. And I'm finding now that, like I said, I'll be walking in the forest and it's just like, songs are just coming out. One of them was about, like, will the children of today ever know what it meant to hold hands or stand in a crowd side by side? You know, like, it's just like thematic shit. One time I was at home, I must have been really baked or whatever, I was kind of dancing to music and I danced out a rendition of like opening the stores and getting arrested, and like it was like an interpretive dance of my activism. And I was like, okay, this is fun. I'm just like doing my thing. Like, and that's like when you're in your own zone and nobody's watching. It's just you and you're just trying to like feel good. And that's what people describe as getting in your flow. Like you just like lose track of time. And that happens when I'm drawing or doing art, which I don't ever do enough of, but I want to. And so,
Well, you're expressing yourself.
yeah, and I think that might be my next phase, is like that. If I can express all my activism, like the things I care about, like I could do a photo essay of like prison landscapes, you know, like visiting different parts of the, you know, like I've got lots of different things I could share, and you know, I grow.
And I think you almost have a duty to do that.
It'd be fun.
I don't want to put pressure on you.
Yeah, no.
But you are living a dynamic life. There's no question about that. I mean, I've watched you for all these years go through so much and like literally so much internationally, nationally. I mean, holy smokes.
And it's just not the time of protests in the street.
We've already figured out that most of that's already documented, so it won't be too hard to put all that together. But, you know, like I say, you are a budding flower. It's not quite as bloomed as you're going to be.
bud.
And it's all about expressing yourself.
Yeah.
And I really look forward to seeing you do that in the future. And I think that people are going to be very interested in what you come up with as you express yourself. And because you've been through so much, you've learned so much, and you have this interesting perspective, I think you have a little bit of a duty to document that and to express that and to
I'd like to share with people like that you can go through a lot of shit, and I got a lot of shit to share, but like
Sharing
you can go
is
through
caring,
it, and you can get stronger through that. And it's again, I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I'm getting inspired hearing from a lot of famous people and people who have like tried to change the world, and like all the stress and pressure, but it's like, you know, you got to do it because you love it. And again, like that, obviously what affects me, because I've cried and I'm not even emotional weak right now. It's like, but I do care about that. And I cannot, and that's what I think the struggle has been lately, was that it felt for many years there that I was having a role to play that was really important, and it made a difference, and it was with a lot of other people, and we all worked on stuff together. And the last few years have a lot of stuff ripped apart. It felt like, you know, like when I spoke of that forest, that's a family, they're all close and social, and I'm on the outlier. Well, for a while there, I had a lot of people around me, a lot of friends. Our community was strong. And, you know, people may know or not, but like a lot of really close former employees, former friends, best friends, former activist allies, they literally turned on us and stabbed us in the back and take glee in watching us suffer. And I've never hurt them or done a thing to them.
It's really hard to take when that happens.
It's very hard to take. And so a lot of me is like, fuck this public figure shit. Fuck doing all this activism for nothing. Fuck helping these people just to have them spit in my face. But then the other side of me goes, yeah, but this is the hundreds of people that meet me, that write to me, that tell me the difference, that ask me for studies about brain cancer and cannabis or what. You know, like I still have so much to offer, and I cannot let these horrible people make me dislike what I do. But also, this is not the time of my husband being in prison and I'm in national news because legalization is being voted on for the first time in history in 2012 and 13. Like, that was an amazing, wild, intense, crazy, powerful, passionate, awesome time. But this is not that time, and I'm not going to shut down the streets with a flag and march and shout slogans the same way I used to. It's not that time.
No, but there's different dynamic things ahead.
Right, and I need to find that, because like there was a time where I was invited to speak to government officials and government bodies. It was like I was held in a very high regard. And then
We
that
would
got
not be
twisted.
where we are
But
without
then,
you.
but now it's like a politician is scared shitless to be around me. Like nobody wants to associate with me because I'm so controversial. Because that's just what happens. And it's like, but then when I do get a meeting, like the one I got to tag along with you, and it's like no. Then when they actually meet, then and it's not all the fear and the tweets and all the Twitter haters that might cause problems.
Brendan Raby has also had a
It's
really
amazing.
nice conversation with
Good. They're in
with
touch.
Rebecca Bly.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
Because I
he
want
just
like he was.
contacted me and told me
Yes,
about that. So
he
I'm
was.
very happy
That
with
was that magical coincidence where he's like, I need to
Yeah.
get in touch with this counselor, and I'm like, I have a meeting with her today, and I only had it with you, and you only called me because it was like, what was going on? Something about Tommy Chong was here or something. It was all crazy. That
You're
was it.
describing the flow.
And magical things
The
happen.
synchronicities when you follow your flow.
Yes, and this is a time, like I said, it's an interesting time where I'm trying to figure out who I am, what I actually love, what brings me joy, what makes me happy, because I can tell you that the last couple of years of being traumatized and hurt and suffering and being like triggered by everything I saw and wanting to scream from the rooftops, don't you all know how unfair it is? Like that's not gonna lead the way. That's not the way I made progress before. That's not a message of hope and optimism. So I gotta get happy. You know, I gotta get happy again because it's hurting myself and it's hurting the cause that I care about. And like a very dear friend, well, it's Jeremiah actually, he said to me, because like I haven't really had an official position or project lately. And so when I feel a thing or I get emotional, I can like tweet it or say it, and I can share a link or and then something really horrible happened recently where a dear friend went and worked for a company. It doesn't matter, but the point is, it was very painful, very upsetting, and I made that known online. And it went far and wide and had very strong reverberations.
Yeah.
And but a lot of people felt badly for me because it was a shitty situation. And so I got like, oh man, that's unfair and that's horrible, I feel bad for you and all that. But if I were not me and I were a potential business partner who would like to invest money in an activism-based business or something, and I saw that Jodie gets really, really upset and like turns the world on you if you piss her off, I don't want to scare people away. And someone said this to me like long years ago. I can't remember who. It was something like, Jodie, you carry a big sword and you do good with it, but sometimes you don't see it when you're hitting people when you're swinging. Like you're a fucking warrior.
A big sword
Yeah, you're a warrior and
sword.
and you're fighting the fight, but sometimes you might accidentally nick somebody because you're just too in the fight and rah, So that's been me. I've been a little cannabis warrior for a while, but that's but that doesn't really help. Like it might make people a little scared to associate with somebody who might,
You always have to be careful when you're in a position
Right.
of influence like that.
And that's what I mean. It's like sometimes you forget and you get in your own bubble like I've been in for a bit. It's like, wait a minute, who am I? Like, who's the Jodie Emery that these people are talking about? Like, I see lies about me all the time. It's like, that's not me, and I want to tell you who I really am, but will you even believe me? Does it even matter? Like, why do I care?
It matters to you, so you should put your story down in a way that
And that's
people
what I
can
think that would help me
experience it.
do. I think that would help me. If I'm just like,
Yeah.
no, here's who I am. Here's my truth. Here's the story. Here's what
Exactly.
fucking happened. Take it. Chapter closed. Move on. Here's the new
You
me.
set the record straight, and then
Right?
whatever happens,
I
happens.
think I need to do that because it is eating
you
me
do
up
too.
inside just not having spoken and having been
There
forced
is
to lay
great
low for a
therapeutic
while.
value in
Yeah.
expressing that and getting that out and getting
But
it
like
down
I
on
said,
paper.
that's going to be really hard, and it's going to take like a year or two because just even looking at old stuff, like it's too emotional. Like it's really raw. Like
Don't
I
be
get.
afraid to start the process. Just do it in
I
ways
do,
that,
and I need to do that, and then we can
just a
start the
little bit
new
at a
chapter.
time. Start some momentum. See
And
where it
this
goes.
crisis might take a year or two anyway. Again, this is kind of almost the perfect slowdown period where we're forced to like
Yeah, well, you're looking at the
survive
good side
on-
of this. You get to, find out who they are a little bit and do some self-discovery and other things as well.
Yeah, and I think that's important.
I took way more of your time. Than
I
you had to
stayed
do
for
it.
way longer than I thought I would because I'm trying to avoid being out in public that much. But this is fine. I mean, I come by the store once in a while, and I do have to go grocery shopping
Time to
and
start
stuff.
getting out a
but-
little more now.
Yeah, it is important, but like I'm just terrified I'll sneeze in public and the health people will come get me and I'll be thrown in a van and vaccinated. I don't know.
Yeah, they're going to be scanning us for temperatures wherever we go now too, and facial recognition.
I'm so torn because I don't want the fucking disease, I don't want that either, but I also don't want to overreact and give away more.
I'm trying to find the truth.
Yeah,
it's not easy.
It's not easy, and that's why I say that's why some like these bigger picture things. Honestly, like when they come to mind, sometimes I have to take it and say, "No, you're going in the box. You're closed. I'm not thinking about you." Strawberry pie.
Yeah. The good news is we can really only focus on one thing at a time.
Gonna make sourdough.
Steer that consciousness over here.
If you're making bread and cooking meals all the time and cleaning and listening to podcasts, there's no time.
Have as much fun as you can, whatever you're doing.
I'm trying to have
even
fun.
As we're throwing wrenches into the gears of these evil, unjust bastards.
Right.
We need to have as much fun as we can.
We need to be
doing
strong.
That.
It's kind of like fighting the battle. It's an immunity battle. Prohibition is a disease, and we need to be strong to fight it. And I realize my activism immunity has been a little low lately, so I need to do things to boost that activism immunity.
You're a much better fighter if you're excited about what you're doing.
Exactly, and that's very important too. It's been hard to be excited about anything lately, but right now I'm feeling a little more excited again about just learning new things and like learning new skills. It feels good.
From our activism point of view, there's a lot that can be done as a result of this crisis to move our issue forward.
Oh yeah, so many ways. Again, it's smashing a lot of systems, and I think a lot of people are going to wake up to things and realize that human connection, and also there's so much that we're learning right now. I think there's a lot to take from it, but I want to close on one quote. I was listening to Ricky Gervais on Sam Harris podcast, and I think he was quoting someone else, but there's a difference like between your reputation, which is what other people think of you, and your character, which is who you are, that those who know you for. And it's like, so if you're, you need to focus on making sure that your character is a good, strong one, that, the people that are in your real world connected to you.
And the reputation should follow.
Reputation is important. And it's like,
follow if you're looking after your character, your reputation
should be fine. And that's why I hope my reputation's half decent at least. But, but the problem, again, it's like if you get too hung up on like what other people think, they're winning. They're like getting in your head, and they are taking up your time, and they're making you feel lesser than, and that's what they want. Yep. And so if you let them have that, that's no good. So it's about looking after.
On that becomes large.
Yeah, so. and boy can it ever. And like just even a few days ago, horrible things said online again, and it's blah blah blah, and it's like, but and it can get to me, but then I just go out into nature again, and I bring some like peanut butter cookies to work and see the smile on people's faces. You're
more reasonable and stoic every time it happens, and embrace it. It is what it is, and it'll make you stronger, and it'll make you smarter, and that's that.
And maybe I'll be able to do more for the world in small, measured ways rather than being like a big, loud bang. Like it was a lot of.
I don't know what the future holds for you.
I don't
I'm looking
either.
forward to seeing it. And all of this that's happened to you in your first 35 years is just preparing you for what's going to happen in the next 35 years. So,
well, Jodie's joint, I want the cafes. Like these, I'm making a lot of food things in it.
A lot of products.
A lot of delicious products. Yeah, me. I like a French cafe.
Those, peanut butter cookies.
They're upstairs right now.
Are they?
They better not have eaten them all.
No,
there was one each. They know. One each.
Just like toilet paper, one per family.
Yeah, right. I'll just more reason to make more, right? But honestly, it's like that's.
Consider some chocolate chips.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, that's what I have the chocolate chips. Did I not have this conversation already? Upstairs, we were talking about it. I'm like, I have chocolate chips that I haven't used yet, and I have bananas. And I don't actually eat bananas, but I keep buying them because I think one day I'll eat them. I do eat them occasionally, but banana bread
is in the future.
Might have to. Yeah.
Hey, Jodie, thank you so much for coming and spending
Neil.
some time with us.
I appreciate it. I wish we could do all the hugs and stuff, but for now, I guess. Yay. And thank you for still being on the front lines and taking care of.
I don't have a choice.
I understand that you're super devoted, and I also understand, because I live.
I'm devoted because I'm driven, and I'm driven for things other than my own choosing. I care about stuff, and because I care about stuff, I have to do what I have to do. Yeah. So I really don't have much choice but to continue doing this until I'm satisfied that I've done it enough.
Thank goodness, I guess. Yeah. But I'd be happy to see you not have to do anything because there's not a problem to be.
Me too.
To be dealt with.
I would love to fall to my knees and bawl my eyes out because they finally really legalized our us and
right?
cannabis and everything that we think should be legalized, and then that I could just go find a body of water somewhere and build a little cabin. And,
The fucking dream. Yeah.
Yeah, it'll never happen.
I mean, you never
we might
know,
get
man.
legalization that makes me cry, but as for me building a cabin somewhere, that's not going to happen. And,
Don't, you know what? Don't say that shit. You know why?
I'm too old to build a cabin now, that's all. I know my physical limitations. I've built lots of things in my life. Now I know that I'm not really capable of building myself
There's
a cabin.
things
I
called
have to buy a cabin
teamwork.
already built and live in
I
it.
buy a half built so you can do a little work
I
on
do some
it.
finishing.
There you go.
Yeah.
A fixer
I
upper.
can still paint.
Yeah. No, but I understand. You're right. And some things in life we have to acknowledge that we might not be able to do again. Like, that's definitely lots of things. Like,
Having a purpose is a really important, powerful thing.
it sure
And if I
is.
lose the purpose that I have now and I can just go and live by a body of water somewhere and enjoy fishing or whatever.
Nice, but you're right. You'll get bored and then you'll just die like everybody does when they have to retire and they can't do what they love.
It's good to have something that drives me for sure. I like
Need a
having
reason.
something that I feel needs to be worked on. It does keep me going. And,
Yeah.
I like keeping on going. So.
You need to keep busy.
Well,
Right on.
this will be the longest.
Sorry,
in the
guys.
history of the
Sorry.
THC, and I can't think of a better person to have dragged it out longer on a day that I thought was going to actually stop earlier.
My name's Jodie, but I'm really named Chatty Cathy.
Wow, and I like everything that you say, and thank you for saying it and for doing all you've done.
Thank you.
And I hope that you continue to find purpose and ways to
Yeah,
express
thanks.
yourself.
This was like a therapy session, actually. You all got
Cool.
like a little peek inside my feelings.
Nice.
Oh.
That's what I try to do.
Real,
We're
yeah.
trying to give people some hope and some reason to try to fight for change, and there's still a lot of change to fight for, and we still need you to
for
help
sure.
fight for it. So.
Yeah, no, I'll stick around.
Good.
You're right. Every time I ever think, I just want to like focus on myself and not do the things anymore, then it's like, I can't, because like you said, it's like if I actually did get to go away and like hide in my own dream cabin house with the yard and the garden, I'd get bored pretty fucking quick.
You can't stop caring.
Right.
And like I said to Freddie Pritchard too, he tried to quit. I'm like, Freddie, you can't quit being who you are.
Yeah.
You're going to give a shit about this injustice.
And it's like you can take a break, like you said with Don and Carol and others. It's like sometimes you need to take the break. It's like
Sure.
we get exhausted. You can't be fighting.
It's about balance.
Yeah.
It's about balance.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
absolutely we fight too hard as activists. I learned that early on. I watched activists come and go that would burn out.
Oh,
and I could really
easy.
see why. I mean, it makes you so angry.
Yeah.
And you get to be touched by people whose lives have been ruined, and on it goes.
And then you
right?
start to have like, when you do take some time off and you're like, oh my God, I'm not doing the maximum I could do. Therefore, I'm letting people down. So I'm actually failing people just by taking some downtime. Oh my God. And it's like, you can't live that way. You can't save every soul. You can't give
Only
$10
you can do what
out
you
to
can
every,
do.
you're right. You can't.
If you
just
give
little
too
bits
much
and
today,
pieces.
you're not going to be given enough tomorrow.
Exactly.
You need to
It's
have
like
a
the
balance.
plant.
You need to pace yourself. All of that kind of stuff.
It's like there's so much you can learn from plants, like the lettuce, or the roses. You can take you can trim a couple rosemary. That's my favorite. I love rosemary. You can trim a couple rosemary branches to use in your delicious roast vegetable, delicious dinner.
Nice.
But if you take them all, there'll be nothing left to grow back. So you have to trim accordingly,
Life's about balance.
which I have learned. So I'm buying a new rosemary bush. That's how it goes.
Well, thank you so much
Thanks
for
again.
coming back and
Okay.
doing a second appearance on this show.
Yeah.
The only bad part of that is now I have to wait a while before I can have you back for a third appearance on
That's
the show.
all right.
probably.
Time is kind of flying, kind
It
of
is
not.
kinda flying.
What it's like
this
a
is
twilight
episode
zone.
37, I
Whoa,
think.
good job.
How does that happen?
Oh man,
Doesn't feel like that.
great work and great work with Neil there. I love the quarantine
man.
beard. It's awesome. Yeah.
It doesn't happen without a meal.
No,
He makes all this
absolutely.
happen.
That's another fantasy. I keep thinking, well, I could do a Jodie's Joint podcast. I could learn how to produce and use a thing and buy a microphone and a headphone set. And I'm like, or I could come down to the studio as a producer and a microphone and headphone sets and stuff.
If I had to do all the stuff
man.
that is done here
Yeah.
by Neil, this show wouldn't be happening.
Yeah. No, I'm definitely learning more about, teamwork honestly makes the dream work. And you can try and do it all yourself, but you really can't. No man's an
It's better
island.
to have people
So,
helping you anyway.
yeah, it's the forest, it's the trees. Okay.
Thank you so much, Jodie.
Thanks, Neil.
Have as much fun as you can.
I will. I'm going to go make sure there's like at least 2 peanut butter cookies left. Bye.
Here we go. We've got chicken bits. Do you mind if I try a chicken bit?
You can try chicken bit.
Okay,
Sure.
thank you. Take this.
Just
one.
take it. There you
There we
go.
go. Thank you so much. So I have the cannabis chicken here,
Cannabis.
and we're getting my picture taken. There's lots of people out there today.
Neil. How are you doing today?
Pretty good. How about that one?
That works for me, man. Thank you very much.
How are you doing today?
I'm good.
And what brings you to the Cannabis Substitution Project?
Come get some pods because it's really helps me with my leg.
Is it? Well, I'm very happy to hear that.
Thank you very much.
So I see you're in our Cannabis Substitution lineup. How does cannabis help you with your everyday life?
Well, it helps me keep me away from drugs.
Well, that's going to help you, though, right? Yes. That's why they do that. It's a good thing.
Thank you very much.
And what brings you to our Cannabis Substitution lineup?
I like to use cannabis. I've been using cannabis for a long time and I enjoy it.
And how does it help you out with your everyday life?
Actually, it helps me stay calm and it keeps my mood good. It helps with my depression, right?
Sativa one?
Sativa, yes.
Mango. Or THC, I guess.
It's both. It's THC and it's sativa.
And what brings you to our Cannabis Substitution lineup on this beautiful Sunday?
I'd rather have the edibles than take the pills the doctors give me for painkillers.
You seem like an okay dude, so
Thank you very much.
Come on in, brother.
We gotta call them moons just to be gender diverse.
Thanks, guys.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, big thanks to Debbie Hellion for that video. Just a slice of what goes on at the Cannabis Substitution Project. For those who don't know, the Cannabis Substitution Project is a project that's been running for over 3 years now on the downtown east side, trying to address the other pandemic that's still running here, the overdose crisis, the opioid crisis. And what we do is, with our amazing team of volunteers and thanks to our incredible donators, we hand out care packs of high-dose cannabis edibles to people to try and offset the use of opioids and to help them with their lives. A very rewarding program that has been deemed essential during this pandemic, even though we gather over 200 people together twice a week to give out these care packs. We do maintain proper physical distancing as best we can, and we use the opportunity to educate people about how to be safe during the pandemic. And it's an amazing program. We're really in need of herb. We don't have enough shake or trim or flower at this point, and it's become critical. I'm not sure how to get more. People are kind of isolating where they are, and we need some donations. So if you know anybody that could donate some trim or flower or shake to us, please let us know. You can contact us through the Cannabis Substitution Project Facebook group page, or Neil Magnuson on Facebook is another good way to get a hold of me. So yeah, that's the CSP update. For coming events, I think we have a coming event. I think it's Cannabis Day. I think that on July 1st, there will be some booths set up at Thornton Park. Maybe we'll have a stage. We're going to talk about all that stuff. But I think that we'll be able to have some semblance of a gathering July 1st here in Vancouver, and very much looking forward to that. I want to thank Pot TV for allowing me the use of the studio, to my producer and Neil for all his fine work in making the show happen. We do other shows here at Pot TV, as you're probably aware. Tomorrow, Wednesday, will be Greg Williams with From Under the Influence, and Greg's unique take on all things cannabis related and maybe even COVID related. And on Friday, it's Jeremiah Vandermeer with Cannabis Culture News Live. All the information that you need to keep up to date in the cannabis world. Saturday, high noon with Boss Lissa. Monday, it's the 420 Lifestyle Show with Carly Marley and BC Bud Gal. And next Tuesday, I'll likely be back for another episode of the THC Show. Thank you for watching. Thanks to everybody for whatever you're doing to keep people safe and sane. And as we go about trying to navigate and change the world, have as much fun as you can.
Are we still banned on YouTube? I'm Marijuana Man. Welcome to From Under the Influence. If they had weed, guaranteed they would make money. That's the only conclusion I can come to, is they don't have any weed. Because people are still going to buy it, for God's sakes. People actually like weed and want to buy weed. And a huge number of people have no choice but to come and buy it from you. And still, you can't make money? Holy fuck. Now what? What are you going to do to us now? When I was even at a very young age, go, wow, like, why would this be illegal? It is so much fun.
Outlawing laughter and feeling good?
Yeah,
What?
laughing. Thanks for joining us. See you next time. Peace. And pod.
Hi there. Welcome to the 420 Lifestyle Show. I'm Carly Marley. She's taking a dab. Thanks.
We can play the Sick Moose video.
Oh, yes, Sick Moose video. Let's play the Sick Moose video.
That's like all over the place, I guess.
It helps the speaker lead his audience into the scene he describes.
Oh, I'm rolling out the fattest joint I could possibly fit in this paper. If it was any bigger, it would explode.
Hello there, first-time viewers. Welcome to Pot TV. Welcome to Pot TV.
Let them go! 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 Let them go!
It is only now, once we've reached this point of critical mass, that I could really tell you the story, because that's the interactive nature of the internet.
Pot TV is an internet video-based site. We've had over 6 million shows watched. We get about 10,000 shows watched a day. Shows on growing marijuana, medical marijuana, politics of marijuana.
And at that time, most magazines or books revolving around marijuana were prohibited literature.
From cookbooks to grow books, books about the cannabis culture, mushroom books, even psychedelic books.
The mass injustice being done, where millions of people in this country are being scapegoated, having their rights and their property and their leisure time and their privacy and their freedom of movement all stripped away from them.
And they pulled me off the line, and pushed me down and put me in handcuffs, and they locked me in the patio.
This is what it's all about. A little green plant. You, the taxpayers, are being asked to subsidize a war on a little green plant.
I know it's scary and difficult and frustrating, and politicians are a fraud. Try and change that and be a voice of truth.
For many, many years, decades.
In 2001, Canada legalized marijuana for medical purposes.
Pot TV news flash breaking story, July 9th, 2003.
I became leader about 9 months ago.
You have how many locations, and how long have you been serving the people of the community for?
Well, I started in 2004.
Because as long as you're not hurting anyone else, as long as you're not causing any harm, then why should you be dealing with police or prisons or agents of the government?
A former DEA agent and author of Powder Burns, Cocaine Contras and the Drug War.
In the media often, and the media reports uncritically all too often.
I saw this video and I was like, whoa, man, seems like there's something to this.
Join me weekdays on Pot TV.
We're going to be doing a new show here on Pot TV.
On Pot TV, Instilling Our combines poetry, music, art, video clips, and photographs with a variety of interesting guests who are involved in the medical cannabis movement.
It comes on air at 4:20.
Cannabis indica, or Indian hemp. It was tasted by the priests on sacrificial occasions.
So I'm gonna stop and smoke a joint. Just figured I'd show you my surroundings here. Beautiful, beautiful little flowers everywhere.
hemp and its many applications, how hemp can be made into paper and fuel and clothing, and that.
2 different samples.
Now these are the same cut, grown in the same room, with 2 different soil mixes.
As a line diagram, okay, and this is a cross-section of a bract.
Now on some of these plants too, there's something called pre-flowers that form. Sometimes 8 to 12 weeks into the veg cycle, you can look 3 or 4 sets of branches down from the top. Hey, wait a second, I'm not even smoking joints. I'm talking.
We need real cannabis dispensaries. Many patients who use cannabis as a medicine need access. You're taking the medicine away from sick and dying people.
Let's overgrow the government. Let's have more marijuana than they can ever stop.
But while you sit here enjoying this, remember those who are in prison this moment, locked away from their loved ones, locked away from their friends, and that could be you.
Just want to say thanks for watching Pot TV. You can't get higher on the net.